So here we are then, and ready to go for the first RaceRoom ranked event of the year. Of course, we head to the World Centre of Racing and to Daytona Beach. Should be a lot of fun, this one. A support race and the Daytona 2.4 hour around this historic venue. Obviously hosting the Daytona 500 and the 24 and plenty of other things in the world of racing. I'm Lewis McGlade, and I'll be taking you through the broadcast along with someone who will also be putting up with me for the entirety of this broadcast, Cam Roger. Hello, welcome. This could be a bit of fun.
Absolutely, it's great to be back on these 2.4 hour special events here on RaceRoom, and can't wait to see what the driver's going to do. But of course, we have the support race this year as well, so plenty of action coming your way over the next couple of hours.
Indeed, here is a schedule for the evening. We've got the support series qualifying underway at the moment. That should be coming to a close in just a couple of seconds before we get into a 20-minute race for them. It'll be TCR cars taking around the circuit, so should be an awful lot of fun. The circuit that we're over, but after that we'll get into the main race and the main quality. The circuit we're racing at 5.7 kilometers. A lot of chances for slipstream around here, Cam, which is what's going to make these TCR so much fun to race in, and of course the main race a bit later on.
Yeah, it's an amazing venue, an amazing event, and I think we're going to see quite a lot of sort of slipstream battles over the course of these races. It's going to be the big talking point with the two really long straights, of course, easily flat out through the NASCAR's 1, 2, 3, and 4 corners. And a bit of strategy comes into that, because you sort of have to choose when you make your overtakes and when you try and sort of bump draft and push up to the next car ahead.
Indeed, the entry list as well for this is actually still, again, as always with the racing rank list, it's pretty strong. The likes of Sebastian Ray, of Oyser, of Orban, all drivers that we expect to see. I know Dinez is pretty strong in these cars. I think I remember him winning a couple of times in the RaceRoom ranked championship when we went racing with the TCRs back in that God knows how long ago. Quite a lot of these drivers as well, Cam, they are on double duty today. They're racing in the TCRs, and then later on in the evening they'll be taking to either the GT3s or the DPi to take to the 2.4 hour race. It's a long evening of racing if you're doing both.
I don't envy that one bit. Of course, 20-minute race not so bad, but a 2.4 hours on your own is a lot of driving and a lot of concentration. So to come and use some calories up before this is going to be an interesting one for those drivers, and there's quite a few who you'll see, as you say, crossovers. So that's going to be a challenging one. There might be some more fatigue in the second half of the 2.4 hours compared to what we're normally used to.
Into qualifying, and it is Christian Orban presently on the pole position. We'll see Francois coming around to start a lap. Tharkash here coming around with them running around about 1 minute 57 lap times. This will actually be the last lap already for Ben Tharkash in this session. Moves up onto the pole, and that will do. Will be able to start because they're rolling off of the Le Mans chicane. Although I would say with 20 seconds, I don't think there's going to be enough time for Ben Tharkash to actually start another lap time.
Yeah, too long of a run, I would say. He was about 20 seconds shy. I don't think that's going to be enough. We'll have to see if Kubovic here gets across the line, because if he does, then Farkash might have an opportunity. But note, with 1:57 on the board, I don't think Farkash is going to get another time. But at least there'll be some practice down towards turn number 1. And he is purple in this first sector. We've also got Orban on a purple first sector, so maybe a couple of fast times coming in here. The last couple of opportunities to improve your time, and that is a good one, but unfortunately not quite enough to move up the table.
Sebastian Ray invalidated his lap time, as has Balázs Nagy. So the pair of those dropping down with no extra time to be added to this. Ben Farkash absolutely not going to be able to finish this lap time, courtesy of the lack of time remaining. Again, as always, when the time hits 0, the session is over. It's not waiting for that final lap to be completed. But a solid first sector there from Christian Orban. About a tenth of a second faster than what we saw from Ben Farkash. We'll now bring it over to the right-hand side as we head our way through the Le Mans chicane. I can actually handle that name change, just because I've had to used to it with lots of stuff. But rolling through that second sector, now about a tenth off of Farkash. With them both being in the same car and both being in fixed up, I don't see him actually making up that time, and in fact has bailed from it.
Yeah, it's a tough one in these sorts of cars. They're very momentum-based, especially through that Le Mans chicane. You have a 2-kilometer run all the way down towards turn 1. You've really got to get the run through the 4 apexes, and if you lose some momentum, and you can already see it on your delta, it just goes down and down and down, and you lose all of the time. I mean, you will literally lose tenths and tenths of a second if you get it wrong. So it's very important, not only in the race, but also here in the qualifying session, because if you lose those extra couple of tenths, it will be a few places with just how close this field is.
No one is going to improve anymore in this session. Everyone's already bailed, or they're not far enough into a lap to improve. So it will be pole position for Benz Farkas. Christian Orban in second position, Sebastian Ray, Dinez, Noj Oizer there in sixth spot with Vicente Kubovic as well down in eighth, and then Kort and Eichberger rounding out the top 10 positions. Spevar is starting from 11th position with Pippet, Rostance, of course, Papej, Guyen, and then, of course, Lurger. I think Lurger is actually one of those ones that's on double duty today with Jarry, Francois, who we saw just cross the line there. Egbers, Ricardo Costa there down in 20th position with one further position to go, which is Philip Streitzel down in the 21st spot. We'll say, though, this is one circuit where if you have qualified poorly, I don't really care. You can absolutely work your way through the order in 20 minutes around here.
Oh, definitely. You've got to be a little bit smart about it, to be honest. You can actually sort of hinder yourselves if you try and make too many overtakes, for instance, into the Le Mans chicane, and then you lose the momentum that I was talking about. You actually overall lose time to the cars ahead. So you do have to be a little bit careful about it, but it's definitely one where you can use, especially if you get a partner, you can use each other and try and bump draft your way to the front. So it's definitely a very interesting style of racing that I think we're going to see. And in only 20 minutes, around here, there's not many laps, so not many opportunities into turn one, into the chicane. Is going to be a fast and frantic one, and you've got to make your way to the front fairly quickly.
Yeah, but it's, like I say, it's a bit of fun. There is a look at all of the cars that we have. Not seeing all of these out in action. We are seeing mostly a grid of Hondas. Did see a couple of Hyundais in there. Did see at least one Cupra. I'm not sure what else I've seen on the grid, mostly because I'm blind. I can see an Audi. At least we've got one of those. So we've ticked off a couple of them.
Yeah, I think the Honda was pretty strong when we did this in the Rank Championship, as you say, maybe last year, a year before. So obviously that's the favourable one in the TCRs. They are all fairly similar, but any car that has that slight edge, all of the drivers are going to take it. Doesn't matter if it's half a tenth of a second, if it's 2Ks extra top speed, where it doesn't make the biggest difference. Any advantage is an advantage, especially in a sort of a fixed setup situation where you need to get every single thousandth of a second.
Based purely on looks, which one do you take?
Oh,
because we can't judge how they're driving, and we can't judge the straight line speed. Which I was saying before the broadcast, I would go in whichever one was the fastest in the straight line.
Especially around a track like this, I do like the VW.
I also quite like the VW.
To be fair, I do like that one. Alfa Romeo is a bit weird. I'd probably choose the VW.
I don't know. See, I quite like the Hyundai, although I will say, genuinely, if you took that Hyundai and you put a Ford delivery on it, I am not joking. You'd be like, that is a weird looking Ford, isn't it? I can't go with the Lincoln Co because it's the front of it is weird. It's the lights too high. They're too high. I'm not about that. I actually quite like the Peugeot. You know.
Oof, interesting. I mean, a lot of people actually do quite like their modern styling in general.
Yeah.
So I think quite a few people would agree with you.
Yeah, no, I'm all about their modern styling, which is horror. Again, like that really does take something. If an English person is saying that the French design at the moment is quite nice, but yeah, no, I'm all about that. Before we move into the race, though, obviously it will be just the single race here. Who's winning?
Oh, that is a difficult one. Balazs Noj from fifth. Let's go for it.
Balazs Noj. I'm going to go Sebastian Ray. Why not? Who knows? It could be genuinely anyone on this grid, which is what makes it so exciting. Of course, the run down into that first corner that we can see here is that really tricky run. It's so open, it's so wide, it's so tricky to find that braking point on lap one.
It looks easy, but it's actually a really difficult one, especially when you're on that first lap. It looks wide. You think you've got the opportunity to dive down the inside of someone, then it just pinches up and it comes to this really tight sort of road course section halfway around the corner. So you have to be sort of very cautious when going in there because you can easily sort of put yourself into a situation that you can't get out of. And we have seen multiple crashes there over the year. But at the end of the day, it's also another opportunity to gain some position. So if you're feeling a little bit confident on the old brakes, I'm sure you can dive down the inside.
Yeah, indeed. So we'll have to wait and see what's going to happen in this race. Of course, do remember we will be going to the Daytona 2.4 hour after this, which I know qualifying has actually just begun for. So quite a few of these drivers that are on double duty won't get to qualify for it until after this race. They'll get a little bit of time to do so. We can see them taking to the high banks. Thankfully, you know, Capital we see a lot of the time with touring car racing, it's normally a standing start. On this occasion, it's a rolling start, which is fine. These drivers are all well used to rolling starts and stuff. Does mean that things might get a little bit dicey into the first corner, but I don't expect to see 4 wide. Maybe 3. No, in fact, definitely 3.
Oh, 100% 3 wide. 4 wide, yeah, probably a little bit of a shout, but the standing start here is always a bit weird because you have the banking, so the cars sort of slide down, so it is quite good to get the rolling start for a bit of a change, but hopefully this 20-minute race is a whole load of fun.
Certainly is. Well, like I say, I think Sebastian Ray might do it. You think Balázs Nagy might do it. Everyone in the chat, jump in there. Tell us who you think might be able to do it this afternoon before we go into the main race. Spencer Farkas should be starting from pole position. The person that we've not said in all of this, of course, Lewis McGlade, Cam Roger in the commentary booth to take you through all of the action today. We will be joined by Ewan O'Leary as well a little bit later on. Farkas then with the control. As soon as he hits the stripe, he'll take his right foot and slam it down on the pedal as everyone jumps straight down into the slipstream to make sure they're not really caught out going down to that first corner. Christian Orban not going for a big look, not going for a big send down into the first turn, but there is one coming in from Ferenc Denez trying to get a position up on Sebastian Ray in that first turn. Plenty of side-by-side going through the mid-pack. Eichberger and Spivar trying to go side-by-side through all this, but not too much in terms of drama, Cam. That's not a typical touring car start.
Oh, I did see a little bit of a door bang there in the mid-pack, though, as they get in towards the international horseshoe. But yeah, that was definitely a lot more clean than I was expecting, which is actually good because then maybe we're going to get a nice clean race. We're not getting some gaps opening up in these first couple of laps. They're going to stay close together, and the slipstream is going to bring everyone back together. There's a little bit of a look down the inside there from Cord, but not quite enough to make the move. But he's trying to go side by side on the exit. Shavar is trying to defend now on that inside line.
Yeah, indeed, bit of a defensive move as we head down into 6 and out into NASCAR 1 and 2. Caught out a little bit wide, and Rippert might be able to make a move down the inside, but unless you... there is a bit of an overlap going there for Pippert, but it wasn't quite enough, so we'll have to settle for 11th position right now as we'll see the slipstream games begin. At the lead at the field, Bence Farkas still with that lead, but you can see that gap dropping down. I do not expect Christian Orban will go for anything right now. There's a bit more of a look, to be honest, behind from the likes of Balázs Nagy. I think we're filling the mirrors of Ferenc Denez. That is so wide from Bence Farkas. Even I could have got close to the apex there, mate.
Yeah, a bit of grass cutting. Not the fastest way to go through that. So Orban is closing up. Of course, you've got Sebastian Ray in behind, but they're choosing to do the bump draft. And we have 4 Hungarians inside the top 5. And I wonder if they will be a little bit friendly in trying to work together to get on top of Sebastian Ray, who's in the middle of all of them. He goes to the right-hand side, so he come through the tri-oval, but he can't do anything because Orban is just pushing Farkas and increasing the speed therefore.
Yeah, indeed. Like I say, a little bit of bump drafting and stuff. You can see some moves in the background as well for 4th position. Time penalty for Francois for ignoring the slowdown warnings. I was kind of worried that Bence Farkas might be for that one as well, but alas, not on this occasion. There is plenty of side-by-side behind all this. There is Farkas looking back to the inside to go past Christian Orban straight away. This will allow Denez to close right back in as well.
Yeah, and Denez was in a little bit of a 3-way battle himself with also, but actually Vincent is staying on the back, so we've got a 3-car pack and then a 4-car pack up inside this top 7, which is good to see in these opening couple of minutes. But yeah, at the front it was Farkas, yielding that position. Orban going up the inside into turn 1, but we'll have to see, is he going to be able to pull away? I don't think he is. The slipstream is just going to keep everyone close together, and it's definitely going to be a game of racecraft rather than just pure speed here.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said, this is a very different style of race to what we're going to see in the 2.4 hour that will follow very shortly afterwards. Of course, this being a 20-minute sprint race in some touring cars, that being a 2.4 hour endurance. I mean, that's 2.4 hours is plenty of enough time for a solo drive. No drivers or something like that. As we'll see, Bence Farkas close back up. Is he going to bump draft? Yes, he does. He doesn't want to go down the inside going into the Le Mans chicane, which does make sense, especially considering he exceeded track limits in the previous lap and the previous run through. We'll take to the curb, but we ride on board with Bence Farkas to see how wide he goes this time. Much nicer through there.
The slipstream is absolutely massive. I mean, you saw Sebastian Ray as well, just closing in, absolutely freight training them. It's pretty intense already. And here is the view there from Sebastian Ray. He closes in on Farkas in front of him, but he's going to bump draft as well, because what they want to do is they want to try and get as far away from Denez in behind as they can, so that they make it just a three-way battle. They don't want to be making it any more than that, as they are going almost three wide through the triangle in the background as Dines holds that inside line, but Norwich, I think, is trying to go all the way around the outside to get into that fourth place, but it's going to be under the brakes that they have to do that side by side, and Dines just about holds on, but just showing you that the battles in the slipstream are going to be like this every single lap.
Yeah, but had Noj bump drafted rather than looked for a move, might have been able to push Dines closer to them and allow them to pick up the slipstream. There is a yellow flag out because Egmas has had a problem. Look at that in the background. Vicente and Shpivar all going a little bit battling and all of this going with Rossando. I did see a couple of side-by-side moments going through the exit of T1, but nothing too major as we head back up to the race. It's a lot calmer here than I would have expected. I'm not going to lie. I was expecting to see at least one car.
It has been done before, especially through the triangle. I remember when we came here in ranked, a few drivers getting spun around because, of course, in the front-wheel drive, all the weight is on the front. If you touch the rear end, these cars can easily rotate, and that definitely happened a few times, but they're all keeping fairly calm at the moment, but we are definitely closing up. Dines is getting closer and closer to Sebastian Ray, and when that turns into a 7-car train, I can't wait to see how they do. Hold on to that one, because if you're in sort of fourth place, you will have the overspeed just to freight train up to the front if you pull out.
Yeah, but this is the thing, it's like you can see here that it was a much better exit from the top three compared to those four behind, and there's some slightly larger gaps in that four. So for the likes of Balázs Nagy and for Vicente, who's kind of at the rear of that, needs to be full commitment through. Meanwhile, in the background, I did see Court was taking the defensive line from Shpivar going down into the Le Mans chicane. We'll look back to Kubovic as well. Pippet dropped back outside the top 10 through all of this, but now we're going to need to see these games. Whilst we're talking about the games that's happening for the lead of the race, you need to have these games further back down, as Sebastian Ray, I think, is going to try and go for the race lead now, looking to the inside, will at least clear Bence Farkas as Christian Orban now hits the front.
Interesting one there from Farkas to give up that inside line. So Sebastian Ray obviously getting a good run using that slipstream, but look who's on the back. The blue machine of Dines is got up to them. He's actually broken a bit of a gap. The three in behind haven't come up with him, so he's done that all on his own. As all, we've had a crash in turn number one. Loads of cars involved there. Svar is going around, and also Neugen, as they all try and regain their position on the track, but that's absolute chaos with grass and dirt being spun up, so there's obviously a bit of a battle in there, and Pepper has got up into ninth, but definitely not without some carnage.
Yeah, there's definitely been a lot happening in all of that. I mean, we saw the yellow flags out, we saw a couple of cars being picked out, and there is a retirement as well for the race, and all of this is now we'll see Christian Kubovic in 13th spot now at the head of this little field, with Jarry behind Eisberger, who's also dropped down in all that kerfuffle down to 15th spot. Oh my goodness me! Was that Jarry with an... Oh no, sorry, that was Eisberger with an absolute scent going into the West Horseshoe. Said, I'm a little bit frustrated with what's gone on, and just decides to door bang someone out of the way, as here we got these side by side. Sebastian Ray dropped back down into third position. Let's make that fourth, because Dines is also going to come through onto the podium now.
Wow, that is crazy. If you can't get down to that inside line, everyone can just come past, because Ray didn't really have any options there. He couldn't find the space to come back into that inside line, and once again they swap around position. Oh, in the background, who is that going off? As we get a couple of cars avoiding the chicane, as I think it's Vincente and Noja, I should say, dropping down after maybe a bit of a collision in the braking zone.
Yeah, Balázs Nagy, of course, the lone one here that's not in a Honda. Decided to take the Hyundai out, as Jarry has had more issues. As that was a little bit sketchy indeed. Vicente going below the double yellow. That was probably a heart and mouth moment. This is more heart and mouth moments.
Oh my God, three wide through the trial. Farkas is leading. He's in the middle. He's got three guys behind him. Wow, they're going to end up almost squeezing each other into the wall, as it really pinches you and gets tighter as we get to the braking zone there, as Orban is trying to hold onto that second place. Ray around the outside through the king of the chicane. He's all over the grass. He'll lose some momentum from that. And here comes Dines in the blue machine, trying now on the outside line to squeeze into the inside to try and get the proper racing line. And Ray all onto the grass once more, as he drops down to fourth place.
Gwyn is disqualified from the race for a breach of points. Of course, they do have a certain amount of points they can do from track limit excursions, car contacts, etc., etc. To have breached that in 8 minutes and 30 seconds, that's the touring car racing I was expecting. Obviously, we're now just getting ready for the main race. Now, I think we're going to the main race. Either way, bit of a look down the inside there from Dinez, and now was starting to feel the pressure. 7/10 of a gap, the one for the race lead. Bence Farkas checking out at the moment, taking full advantage of all this drama from behind, but with the gap being under a second, or really under the 8/10 margin normally, where it's kind of like really potent. I do believe Christian Orban will at least get a chance. The likes of Dinez, the likes of Ray, that gap's not looking pretty.
No, I do think they're just, as you say, in that slipstream enough that, and especially if Ray pushes Dinez, they'll easily be able to catch up. It'll take a couple of laps, though, to do so, and a little bit of risk maybe in the braking zones, but already you can see they're closing up ever so slightly. So it's actually a bit of a game. Do you want to be leading? It's always a bit of a question in a race like this. Does Farkas want to be leading in that situation, or is he going to be okay and comfortable if Orban and co try and catch up? It's a bit of a difficult choice to be able to make that. But just look at the absolute run that you get here. This is Noj now trying to defend Moiser.
Yeah, exactly, and this does show again. But with the closing speed, I'm kind of happy with being the second car, because the thing is, in that second car, it does seem as though you've got enough speed to get through going into the by the time you get up to start finish, basically. But then you've got to then make on that last lap. You're making sure that you've got to nail that Le Mans chicane, which is never particularly easy, not when the pressure's high. We will absolutely have a 4-car battle for the race lead. That is back on. Obviously, it's far too far back for Balázs Nagy. With that 2 second, maybe we'll see more of a closing. We did see some smoke, by the way, at T1. I believe that belongs to Shpivar. Might be a bit of a problem.
He's dropping further down, was involved in that contact that we saw a couple of laps to go. And now he is dropping further back, but in front of him, though, as Kubic is going to get past Eichberg, I should say, but almost not having it side by side. A little bit of door banging on the exit there, but Kubic manages to just about hold on to that. We're coming towards the Western Horseshoe, does open up on the inside. Any dives coming back, not by this time around, but that's a very weird line there from Kubic, as Eichberg also has some contact, as we see. Actually completely disappeared off the screen, must have disconnected from the race.
Yeah, Shpivar with the DQ. Next one to be added to it. Goyen as well with one. Eichberger out wide. Kubovic with the 12th position at the moment. You can see retirements from Jarry and from Francois as we look back up into this lead battle. 8 minutes 45 seconds left to go. Do remember, this is the support series race. We will be moving into the Daytona 2.4 hour just after this, where I'm sure we'll be dealing with action on this basically all the way through. That is multi-class racing, though, so I'm sure a very different kettle of fish to what we're getting in the TCRs. Look backwards from the Hungarian of Bence Farkas towards the Hungarian of Christian Orban, towards the Hungarian of Francis Dinez. They're so good on this platform.
Oh, they really, really are. And it's not just these guys as well. Most others, the ranked series and events that we do is filled with top-level Hungarian drivers, and it's great to see, actually. But it's funny how, that's a little bit wide there for Farkas. I wonder if that's just letting Orban go back through, or maybe that was just missing the braking zone a little bit. But there's just so many drivers from one country, as there must be real big communities somewhere, some Discord, some forums where they all congregate and get to the top of RaceRoom and sort of focus on one platform.
Well, I know there's obviously a large focus from that contingent on particularly the TCRs and stuff, courtesy of North Commissioners, who I know has been partially involved at various points in the race room scene with the Hungarian drivers. I know there was some competitions and stuff. Gergo Bold ended up with it, of course, 2-time WTCR esports champion. It's just got a really good community behind it. Either way, the other problem with that, by the way, is they're all rapid. It's not as if we just got a lot of them. No, they're all really fast as well. Christian Orban being our race leader. Sebastian Rey, I was worried was going to drop the rear end of Dinez, but I do believe has got enough to claw his way back in. Mike's got a lot of assistance from this group to fight a touch, but I think there was a couple of concerns there for the German. Definitely Balázs Nagy is out of it, so your pick is done, mate.
Yeah, I thought he was going to just sit on the back of the pack, but these guys, they seem to want to battle. I'm sure if these top 7, as a Noj there goes down inside of Oisers, there's a bit of a mistake there from Dinez, as Ray is going to go back through into 3rd, and that might be a big momentum loss as well. So Dinez might completely lose this top battle. But what I was just saying is, I thought these guys were going to sit in calmly and just follow in a pack of 7 towards the end of the race, then start battling. But no, they want to battle early, and it's really splintered up the pack.
Yeah, absolutely. And look at this. Dinez then dropping back over a second now off the rear end of Ray. And do you know what? That's bad for Ray, because the fact that that gap now up towards the top two is more than a second. Benz Farkash is a wise driver, as Oyzer, by the way, gets past Balázs Nagy for fifth position in all this. Nagy with the inside line in that Hyundai. Of course, the outside for Oyzer. Whoa! My goodness me! Vicente straight down the inside, and the only place that was there was the barrier. Found it, and the car is toast.
That is not something that we see every day, but it's certainly possible with that tyre barrier just sticking there on that inside line and just ping-ponging backwards. He's going to be out of the race from that. So 17 drivers remaining, and that is certainly not what I was expecting to see at this point in the race. But the battles go on in behind, and they're still raging on inside the top 10.
Rest in peace. I think is all that can be said about that car right there. As we'll see another couple of looks back for the race lead. I think what I was going to say was that because of the gap, Benz Farkash is a wise driver. Rather than going for the move, I think he will try and bump draft Christian Orban. But with that run going through the infield section there, I think it might just be enough to be given to Sebastian Ray. Ray needs a perfect lap here, an absolutely perfect lap, especially whilst these two are bump drafting. Once again, Benz Farkash goes for the bump draft. And you know what? This lap might be the last one for Sebastian Ray's chance in this race. If they nail the Le Mans chicane, the two ahead, and they bump draft their way around the start finish, that gap will be around a second, like 1.2, 1.3 second, and that is too much.
Let's see how this one goes up. 1.2 it's remaining, and as it stands, there might be just enough for Ray to hold on. Is it enough for him to catch up is the problem. And let's see how this goes. And yeah, it's just increasing and increasing. It's going to be a good couple of tenths of a second just on this straight, showing you how much of an advantage this bump drafting is. When you get into that, it's going to be about 3, almost 4 tenths by the time we get to turn 1.
We've got 3 laps left to go in this race for Sebastian Ray fans, and I know I can see Colin Blankenberg in there. We agreed on pick for this race. I think his time is gone for this race. Unless Benz Farkash and Christian Orban battle extremely hard like what we're seeing here, I think his chance of trying to take victory is over. We're looking at Prabhesh down the inside, trying to get past Kubovic, and you've got Rastance trying to get to the outside in that Cupra. Eichberger behind. We'll probably go for a move coming down to the International Horseshoe. There might be a couple of looks here in there.
Definitely think there's going to be a look up the inside as the Cupra sends it on the brakes. Not enough though actually to get the nose, so they stay in that same formation, but there was at least to think about it from Rostons, but not enough to make a move. Needs a little bit more commitment, but obviously they're all on the absolute limit of what they're trying to do, so they have to keep on fighting. Of course, that's for Rostons to get inside the top 10, which is still a fairly good marker with 22 drivers starting this race. As Farkash at the front has lost some time from Orban, but look at the slipstream just pulling him back in.
Absolutely. Coming into the closing stage of this race, like you say, we're going to have another couple of laps of this one. Benz Farkash not even going for the bump draft now, not adding any risk going into the Le Mans chicane, playing things very, very wisely indeed. I mean, you can see these two are teammates, they know exactly what they're doing. But mean that they're not going to, they're not going to come across the line single file. There's definitely going to be a battle between these two, especially over that final lap of the race. We'll be heading round the banking now, back onto the start finish, back to where you can see the banner of the World Centre of Racing for the penultimate lap, or to start rather the penultimate lap of this race. So still, what, 12 kilometres about, just under 12 kilometres left to go in this race. See who's going to win.
And I think these guys are going to battle, as you say. There might be teammates working together to make sure they get a 1-2, but then neither of them are going to want to give up that P1 position. They've swapped it a couple of times, so they've been working together nicely. But yeah, let's see how that one works out. As Rostons now actually does get the run, this time on a straightaway up the inside, and you can see just how much more speed he's got. Gains a good car length or so, maybe 2 car lengths just in the tri-oval section, and gets himself up inside the top 10. Kubovic is a little bit further ahead, still giving this slipstream. But of course, Prabhesh needs to look in the background now, because Eichberger is still there for that battle for 11th place.
I don't really count out Looken as well. He's not too far behind in that very distinctive yellow, green and black, of course, Cupra, which I'm pretty sure was driven by Alexander Gordon, who's pretty fast touring car driver. I don't know if that's his one, but certainly one of that squad. Will be closing his way back up into that grouping. Whoa, that was a big mistake, and Iceberger has been disqualified because of that being classified as being contact. That breached their amount of points total, and thus they are now out of the race. We've got a lot of retirements and DQs from this race, Cam. We're up to what, 6?
Yeah, we are. 3 DNFs, 3 DQs, and it's only a 20-minute race, and it was looking all calm for the first 6-7 minutes, and then it's just all gone a little bit pear-shaped for some of those drivers, but that just shows you how difficult racing at the top level is, especially on the RaceRoom ranked scene. And yeah, the fact that the car contacts are taken into account with your incident limits is very, very important, so you need to be careful with that one. But 30 seconds remain, so there's still be enough time for one more lap. But which of these drivers is going to be getting it? Orban leads Farkash across the stripe, but will it be that way when we come back around one more time?
Yeah, don't worry, by the way, too much, but if you're thinking that we're going to see a load of DQs in the main race, for one, we'd hope they're driving better because it's the main race. For two, they also have more incident points. It's just 20 for this race, it's 50 for that race. Now, I know you might say that's only, 2.5 times for a race, which is quite significantly longer. But typically, once you've got into the rhythm of the race, you don't really see that much contact. That's against Roy car, so who knows? Final lap of the race, and Christian Orban, Ben Farkash, those are the two that could be important for victory. But surely, Cam, Ben Farkash isn't doing anything until we've left Washington.
Oh yeah, he's waiting. What he needs to do is he needs to make sure he's not too close, because if you're too close, you don't actually get the proper slipstream. You don't get a big overspeed and a big sort of slingshot effect. You want to be a good couple of car lengths back, like we saw a few laps ago when he dropped back by a few tenths, and then he wants to get that massive run. So by the time he gets past him, he's got 5, 6, 7, 8 Ks overspeed, and he'll be able to get that run across the line. What he doesn't want to do is get too close, that he's just creeping up millimetre by millimetre. So this breaking into the chicane is going to be very important whether he can win this race or not.
Yeah, exactly. Let's see if there is going to be the move for the lead going into the Mont chicane. Surely it isn't. You're absolutely right. You don't want to be too close going into that braking zone. You can see already has lifted out from all of it. Just doesn't really want to try anything. But now Cam's that big run. Do you think he's going to do it? Do you think he's going to have enough in the tank? Or do you think maybe this is too close?
Might be just a little bit too close, but he's definitely got the advantage. But is he too close? There's 2 kilometres to go, and he's closing in already.
Let's see then into the slipstream. Then Ben Farkash is going to go, making sure you're up in the 6th gear nice and cleanly and timing it as well as you can. You want to move to the outside once you've left NASCAR 4. That's exactly what's going to happen, but I'm not sure there is going to be the overspeed enough. I think it has just been a good enough exit for Christian Orban to win the Support Series race, but not by much. Literally hundredths of a second between the pair of them. Christian Orban on top, Ben Farkash, Sebastian Ray and Ferenc Dinez rounding out the top 4 as the rest of the finishers will come across the line.
Yeah, that was a very fun race up towards the front, definitely showing you how the racecraft is very, very good as we get the rest of the drivers inside the top 10. Bit of side-by-side up towards the line as Rostens around the outside of Kubovic, but Kubovic just holds on. Rostens takes the final place inside your top 10, where we ended up with 6 DNFs at the back.
Yes, indeed. Well, here we can see our finishers from the race then. Victory for Christian Orban, Ben Farkash and Sebastian Ray on the podium. Congratulations to those. Ferenc Dinez obviously dropping right the way back, but with the fastest lap of the race. Balázs Nagy in 4th. Court will take 6th position with Oizer, Pippert, Kubovic and Rastance inside that top 10. Plenty of drivers behind all of this, including a lot of DQs and retirement. But of course, we'll be moving into the big race, the Daytona 2.4H in just a moment's time. Let's go and see what it's all about. So preparing then for qualifying for the race, of course. The main race, the big one, the 2.4 hours of Daytona on the horizon. Of course, qualifying ready to get underway. Well, I say well underway, rather. We've got about 4 minutes left to go of it. And it's going to be a fun one. It's going to be an interesting one. We will be joined by Ewan O'Leary, but it is still Lewis McGlade and Cameron Roger in the commentary booth to take you through all of it. We'll remind you as to how this evening is going to work. They're currently in that qualifying. They're moving into the main race in a few moments' time. Of course, 2.4 hours of racing. It is brutal, Cam, especially around here.
Oh, it's so difficult to do as one driver. It's almost as long as you would do, obviously, if you're doing a 24-hour race as such. So it's pushing it on that. And of course, as we see in these cars, especially in the GT3, some drivers might try it just on that one-stop strategy as well. You never know if that is going to work out. Someone, of course, just go flat out and try the two. So there's a bit of strategy that comes into it. But of course, in your the all-new prototype category, then that is going to be very, very fun as well to see, because they'll be pitting a lot a lot more regularly, and they've got some sort of different tyres as well. Mediums and hards is going to be a bit of strategy in there as well.
Yeah, we'll talk strategy in a moment, don't you worry, because it is going to be it's a big load. It is a big load. The entry list, I know you can't see it, it's fine. Enzo Filipao, we've got drivers like Sven Mackenberg, Marvin Mackenberg as well. Those are in the DPi category, obviously running that Mazda DPi, the likes of Rokas DeBee, Lucas D'Amico. Some fantastic drivers that we're well aware of on the scene. In the GT3s, we've got master drivers like Yuval Rosen, Matej Mikiewicz and stuff. Here we go. Now we can see the DPIs. Like you say, Rokas DeBee, Pasemko being another one. Oh, look. Sven Mackenberg, Marvin Mackenberg, what are they going to be able to pull to pull out on all this along with Enzo Filipao?
Oh, I think they're going to be up towards the front. They're looking good currently on the timer screens as well, and they're always up towards the front of these races. And one thing that they're very good at is the strategy. So when it comes to that, as I was mentioning in the GTPs, when there's going to be a bit of a sort of battle between the hards, the mediums, and how many stops you do, how long you go on the fuel, they're going to be very on top of that, and they're going to be knowing what to do. So definitely look out for them in the second half of the race, starting to make some moves as the strategy takes effect. But also in your GT3s, as you say, plenty of drivers that you'll be fully aware of after all the ranked racing that we've been doing recently. Yeah,
indeed, lots of choices of car as well. I did see I've seen there's a lot of Ferraris out there, obviously a lot of Lewis Hamilton fans out on the circuit, all jumping over. No, obviously not. There's all it's fine.
Almost.
It's fine.
One more year.
Yeah, indeed. Obviously, in the DPI category, it is purely just the Mazda that we've got going around the circuit. We'll take a look in a second about what's happening in qualifying, because I can tell you qualifying, I believe, is very close to coming to an end. And Enzo Filipao, as the driver that presently has the pole position by not much. Well, actually, no, let me correct myself. It's half a second. Woo.
Yeah, that's a huge margin. I mean, in any category, it doesn't matter what it is, but especially at the top, I mean, beating some of these other drivers that we've seen, like DeBee, the Mackenberg brothers as well. I mean, that's shown his pace, and we know just how fast he was, especially at the end of the Rank Championship. He unfortunately wasn't there for the full season, but doing the last couple of rounds of most of those series, coming in, winning races, getting podiums, he definitely is showing why he's the fastest guy on this platform.
You can see most of the drivers are in the pit lane. They've already closed down on their session. Gontier also into the pit lane. Barrier, I think, is one of the ones out. We're looking at Ian Pfeiffer here, who's obviously in third position in category, improving a little bit, trying to go and grab an extra position maybe off of Matej Mikiewicz. We'll take a look at the results as well. I'll update you as to whether that lap time comes in and whether it does improve. Enzo Filipao on the pole position in the DPI category, with Sven and Marvin Mackenberg starting from second and third position. Pfeiffer does cross the line and there is no improvement, so don't worry too much about that one. Then we've got Pasemko, Gontier, Rokas DeBee, D'Amico, Barrier, Machina, as well as Kuhl down the back end of the top 10. Obviously, four more drivers in the DPI category, being Sebastiano Rossi, Eduardo Gilbert, then Klauper and Gaspar Misch, who I've got to do it. I'm sorry. He's missed the opportunity to get inside the top 10. Okay, fantastic. We're also in GT3s. It is the pole position for Yuval Rosen, who we know is absolutely rapid in these cars. Matej Mikiewicz will start from second position with Ian Pfeiffer. Did see the final moments of that lap time, but no further improvements. We'll have to stare at the back of Mikiewicz with Ribeiro and, of course, Kovalevsky inside the top 10. Esteban Titz, before we get to Rui Felipe. Mariusz Sabdir, I know he's quick round here. I've seen him take victories around here, a little bit further behind on the next page before him Vusrik. Behind that, Martin Hlavana, Guillaume Vigneron. I mean, to be fair, I'm looking at all these drivers. So many drivers can absolutely win from this. Rydell, Janssen, Rose, Coughlin, Rabilo as well. And yes, there are even more drivers after this. Arthur Grant, Christian Orban, Marcel Lucken, who we did see in the previous race as well, with Christian Weitzel, and of course Thiago Mello. Now, with all that done, it's not just me in the commentary booth. We do also have a Mr. Ewan O'Leary. Obviously, Cameron Roger is here in the booth, but Ewan, you've been a busy boy. You haven't seen what we've done in the support series, but we're ready for racing here.
No, you could tell me anything happened in that first race, and I would have to believe you.
No one flipped.
Right, I didn't see it, but no, looking forward to this. I'm impressed with the amount of great drivers we've got here, because you sometimes get at this stage some Daytona fatigue, I would describe it as, but clearly it's not struck these guys, and we've got a great entry for this.
Indeed. It's what's going to make it a lot of fun. But again, the race is going to be a very different kettle of fish. Obviously, Cam, we know about multi-class racing around here. It's tricky. We don't actually see that much multi-class racing in RaceRoom, so it's kind of like one of those ones where it appears. It's a bit of a rarity.
Oh, I love it. And especially with the cars that we have now, there's going to be plenty of overspeed for these DPIs. They got a lot of pace advantage over the GT3s, so they should be able to get past. And with the amount of straights here, hopefully there's not too many issues. But when you do meet the GT3s in the hairpins, it becomes very, very difficult to get past, and you have to be a little bit patient. So sometimes waiting that half a second actually saves you 2 seconds later on if you don't have a crash or some contact.
You know what I'm seeing as my bit of disappointment, Ewan? I don't believe anyone's in Rexy. I don't think anyone is. Surely you've got to like Rexy. You like them. I mean, it's not that. Don't get me wrong.
That was great timing.
Surely you got to like it.
It's okay.
It's okay.
Yeah. Well, there's the famous livery as well. It's not. It doesn't really do it. It's a bit overrated. I can't lie, but I like the idea of the sort of whole identity that car's got. It's fantastic. Yeah.
Well, indeed, we'll get ourselves into the race. Boyd, I'm going to go with Ewan first and then Cam. Who's winning in each category? Go.
I think winning is going to be Kosenko in DPi and then Pfeiffer in GT3.
I'm going to go for Filipao, easy win in the DPIs, and let's go for Pfeiffer in the GT3s from third place.
Well, fair enough. I'm going to go Sven Mackenberg, and I'm just going to go Yuval Rosen. I don't know. I got that faith in Rosen in the GT3s. Of course, it is quite a large category. 34, 35 cars coming onto the start-finish straight here at Daytona with Enzo Filipao in control. The three of us will take you through the race as well. The Daytona 2.4H here on RaceRoom. There is a terrible start from, I believe that's Gontier in the background. Enzo Filipao with the whole shot down to the first corner. Sven Mackenberg trying to get around the outside. Plenty of side-by-side with the mid-pack of the DPIs, and that's before even the GT3s have worked their way through. Bit of squeezing happening up ahead. I think that's Pfeiffer trying to get around the outside of Mikiewicz.
Very close through the chicane for the first time into the International Horseshoe, and the DPIs haven't got through safely. It's Silbert and Rokas to be who have gotten into one another, and that has set a fire amongst the GT3s here, Cam. Everybody going every which way to try and avoid contact.
Yeah, Kovalevsky going around. He's right at the back. He was that Porsche spun around on the apex. The absolute worst time with all the cars coming past. I think Mikiewicz has also dropped down as more yellow flags come out, as Kluper is dropping in your DPI category. But that was carnage because the GT3s were coming through right at the front. The front drivers at the back of the DPIs having their issues, and now Philippe goes to the front.
Yeah, this is where, like, normally you want that whole. See a lot in endurance racing where you see the higher category and the lower category starting with a fair distance between them so that they don't generally come across each other on the first lap. That's not on this occasion. We'll see Mary Shabdir here in 4th position as well as Thomas Ribeiro, who we're looking at the moment. But look at the larger gaps appearing 1st to 2nd, and a big gap back to Pfeiffer. Less so in the DPi category, though, is the 2 Mackenbergs. So rather, that's actually Seb Mackenberg and Marvin Mackenberg, and Sven Mackenberg dropped off quite a bit there from Enzo Filipao. He was rapid in qualifying and showing that in the race as well.
He is so far, but how long can he keep that up for? Into turn 1, that's very late on the brakes from Pasemko, but not quite late enough. In the end, Marvin Mackenberg, that is, just readjusted and held on to 3rd place. Through the chicane, he's still ahead. What about into the international horseshoe? He'll be looking in his mirrors, but he doesn't get dived. He'll be pleased about that, as someone else is off now, Cam, in the... it's D'Amico by the looks of it.
Yeah, just going in way too deep there. Potentially having half a think onto Pasemko, but not enough as he rejoins. I think he did avoid the wall, but he rejoins a little bit further down the order, unfortunately, in 12th place. And there's absolute carnage that we have, because a couple of DPIs are, of course, now behind some of the GT3 cars. They're going to have to work their way back. That's always a little bit more difficult.
Pace difference between the DPIs and the GT3s is, I think, generally it's about 15 to 20 seconds. It's probably close to 15 seconds a lap around here. What that means is we're definitely going to see a lot of traffic working their way past bit by bit. As we can see here, Rocus DeB is that bright pink, blue and yellow. I do quite like that colour, by the way. I'm pretty sure the last time we were talking about the Mazdas, the Mazda DPi driving around, I'm pretty sure I highlighted that livery and said I like that. Cam knows exactly right, because we're going to get a highlight. But still, I don't know. I'm just a big fan of that one. Big lead though for Felipe. Now 0.8 of a second as Yuval Rose is trying to work his way back past.
Yeah, the slipstream has not kept everyone together as much as you maybe think. 3 wide with Klupar going down the inside of Pfeiffer and Rosen into the bus stop chicane. They all work it through. And Pfeiffer is the one who comes out the other side of it in 2nd place here, Cam. He's made a good start from 4th on the grid.
That was absolutely brave. As back to the DPIs, the batting continues. Gilbert and the yellow machine up the inside, trying to get inside the top 10, but this is not going to be easy because Wish is there defending for his life on the inside now in towards the international horseshoe, but he's way early on the brakes, as that's going to be a huge outside run there for Gilbert. A bit of a spin, although half spin though on the exit as he tries to get onto the power, and he should have the momentum up towards the dog leg, and he certainly goes through up into 10th place, but he really had to work hard for that one.
Yeah, now Mish is looking backwards towards D'Amico. Of course, D'Amico was off at the West Horseshoe, almost right onto the rear end as well while they worked through it was the International Horseshoe. Went off, and they were going through the West Horseshoe there. They were very close. Yellow flags out as Gilbert's been round. We cut away from it. I'm not going to blame Crystal on that one. It's fine. But Edouard Gilbert round and down the order. That's a bit of a shame in that very distinctive yellow car.
Car for us to pick out, I can't lie. More of them, please. It's absolutely fine. Looks like we've got someone off at the bus stop as well. Bertrand Barrier, by the looks of it, in the Mazdas. There he is. Well, he's at least got everything where it needs to be in terms of the car, I think. But another driver off the road here, Cam. We're only 5 minutes in, and that's been a lot of spins and incidences so far.
Yeah, this is an endurance race, but they're going at it almost like a sprint race with the amount of battling and whatnot that they've done in the opening few laps. It is easy to make a mistake, and especially if someone maybe was a bit of side-by-side into that braking zone of the Le Mans chicane. And yeah, it's difficult, especially if you go on that grass. It's very, very difficult to save. But hopefully we can see the battles continue on with that. That was just a quick look there at Pfeiffer. He's very close to the back of Rosen, and all 3 of them within a second of Philippe at the front of your GT3 category.
Now looking back to 6th position, Martina trying to get past Fuel, but also Pasemko at the head of this group inside the top 5 at the moment. They've not dropped too far off. I was a little bit concerned that they were going to allow Enzo Filipao to check off into the distance, but it's kind of held around the 1.8 to 1.9 miles. It is going up, it is growing, and Enzo Filipao is very much in control in this race. But we haven't even started talking strategy yet, and we won't for a little while, because there's a lot going on with the DPIs, though. Very briefly, we'll touch on it. We're expecting 3 stops from the DPIs and 2 from the GT3s. You can do it in 2 stops from the DPIs. You can sort of do it in 1 stop from the GT3s. You've got to be very, very careful with that right foot and save a lot of fuel as we look backwards from Pasemko, and then back this battle 4 seconds. These two, they can't battle too hard, because if they do battle too hard, they'll allow Rear Felipe to run away. And at the moment, they're just about keeping that gap, although Yuval Rosen is collecting about as many apexes as I do.
They are keeping him just in check at the moment, Felipe, and I think on the last lap, that's part of the reason why they did close. It had gone over a second briefly, this gap between 1 and 2. But now Rosen is, as you can see, less than 9 tenths behind even. Pfeiffer didn't get a very good exit onto the banking there, out of turn 6, and that was maybe a legacy of the fact that Rosen missed the apex on the way into that turn, but they do have to stay wary here, Cam, and that is something we've talked about a little bit so far. We've not yet factored in, as Lewis mentioned, the strategy, we've not yet factored in traffic, which hasn't happened yet, of course.
So it's not quite there. It will be possibly even this lap as they get up towards the back of the rear end of the GT3s as the GT3s spread out. But yeah, that's going to change things massively, and especially with some of the gaps when you get to the Le Mans chicane. I mean, you can easily lose 2 seconds there. Even as a GT3, if you get some of the DPIs sending it down the inside, is not a nice situation to be in. I think Zabdia's just got Mikovic for P6 as they're batting with those. Zabdia actually now trying to get Tits as well in towards turn 1. I think he has done so. Tits through Mikovic also, so they battle their way now through the chicane. In the background, we've also got Vigneron trying to go side by side in that Porsche and trying to make some moves around the outside. And Mikovic, I should say, in that Porsche around the outside, trying to hold it all the way, but it's not quite going to work. He's going to have to get back out of that.
Yeah, exactly. Tits there. Having the hold of 6th place in all of that, and I think Mary Zabdia at the moment will be a little bit disappointed, but this is the whole thing. We don't know exactly what strategies people are running in all of this, because we don't know if they're sitting in the slipstream. We don't know if they're keeping things comfortable in the slipstream. So and saving that fuel. As here comes the side by side, Pasemko and Kuhl, and it will be a move to the outside. Pasemko still able to hold on to 5th position, and there's no move for the Dutchman to make their way past.
For the moment, they're still both going to look through here, Kuhl and Marchena just in behind. Here into the West Horseshoe, maybe there will be a move for the Dutchman, not this time around. And Semko's lack of speed here in the first 10 minutes has surprised me a little bit. He did top the free practice session before qualifying earlier on in the day. And I know it doesn't mean a whole lot, of course, because clearly he wasn't the fastest in qualifying, and as we get this race underway, he's not fastest here either, Cam, but there are about 3 million strategies that Sven Mackenberg has given to us, and maybe he's doing one of those that requires you going a bit slower at this stage, who knows?
Yeah, potentially. Potentially there might be a bit of fuel saving going on, but I think that's going to be the position loss there down the inside. And yeah, easy. Absolutely no fighting whatsoever. So Pasemko down into 6th place. As we've also got Macheda on the back of that in P7 as well, as he tries to work his way through. So I wonder if Pasemko's going to drop back, and yes, he has, as they go side by side. So Pasemko is clearly not running at full speed because he's really not able to keep up this pace, as he's almost squeezing Machenda down into the inside of the apron.
I wouldn't say he's almost squeezing. I'm pretty sure he was squeezing him down there onto the apron. Just got dangerously onto that rear, effectively the rear quarter panel. As you would do if it was NASCAR terms, nearly turned the Spanish driver around. Be very careful with all of that. But they're okay. That's the race lead in both categories, continuing to go up just a touch. With Felipe now with 1.1 second lead in the GT3s. Enzo Filipao with a 2.7 second lead in the DPIs, but I'm not sure that Enzo Filipao's doing the same level of fuel saving. And that said, he was on pole position by a huge margin. Big snap there from Pasemko.
Oh, and another one on the exit of the International Horseshoe. So he's not enjoying his time around there by any means. Marchena could have struck, I suppose, but decided not to, or didn't have the space to. Hard to know which, but they stay single file out onto the banking again. Now 10 minutes complete, but still no traffic yet, Cam. That's where this race is going to be made and or won and lost, to put it more simply, and it is coming very soon.
Yeah, surprised by that actually. I thought we were going to be seeing the DPi's being a lot faster than that. Looking at the last lap times, it was only 13 seconds a lap comparing the two class leaders. So we'll have to see how that one works itself out. Look as the slipstream, it was definitely very big in the TCRs and is continuing to be big in these GT3s as well. As a Vertric there on the back of Labner and Vigneron as they battle their way through, and here come the DPi's.
Yeah, this is that is concerning. I'm not going to lie, that is very concerning indeed. Gontier back into it after what can only be described as a poor start, and nearly cleared his way through on both of the Mackenbergs. Might be able to clear Sven Mackenberg on the braking zone going into the International Horseshoe. I think with that big commitment, but it's going to be met with one of the GT3s, which is going to make things a little bit awkward. But Gontier is going to work his way past. No issues, no fears, no worries. We look back at some of the drivers just trying to work their way around. These are the kind of opportunities where they can actually work their way back into various fights. And that's same with the GT3 category if they get a bit lucky when the guys come through.
Yeah, they can. It depends how the traffic falls, and it's not always down to your good driving or anyone else's bad driving. Sometimes it just happens. And Thomas Gontier there very nearly found himself in the back of a GT3. That would have helped Mackenberg, Sven Mackenberg that is, for sure. But they all stay in the same positions out there. The battle for fifth position also stays the same. They are still nose to tail, but we're not even inside the top 10 yet, Cam, in terms of traffic.
Yeah, that was a huge risk there down the inside of turn 6, and it just shows you how easily these accidents can happen. You can sort of go in there as a DPi, as any sort of prototype category, and you can go in full steam, and of course you're way slow. That was a terrible exit though from Kilwin. Pusenko is going to be getting the run, but he was a little bit balked as well, so he might not be able to get the best run that he would have wanted. But we know the slipstream is big around here, and it seems Pusenko has calmed down just a little bit. He's got the speed coming back into that machine, but look at all these GT3 cars up ahead. They all need to find some space. They're going to have to go on the high line through the tri-oval. There'll have to be a dive down the inside, but the Mercedes is almost blocking him off there.
That was Vigneron, I believe, they've just cleared, which I think leaves them with about 6 or 7 more of the GT3s to work their way past before they get to the head of this field. I mean, you can see them on the map. This is where it's really, high stress, high stakes for this group. You work your way through a little bit slowly, you're a little bit too cautious in traffic, and suddenly you might get run over by the DPi directly behind you. So you've got to be careful, you've got to be cutthroat. And I'll tell you what, someone who has taken advice on this, you can see them just there in the distance. Yuval Rosen has closed that 1 point, whatever it was, second gap down to Reeve Felipe. It's now 3:10. So clearly Felipe got slowed down a little bit, as here we go, Kuhl out wide and Pusenko straight back down the inside going into NASCAR 1 and 2.
And he could get caught behind this Ferrari. Is he going to be nice? Oh, just about. Kuhl there could have been a lot nastier there and sort of shoved Pusenko behind the slower cars, but in the end he was a bit nicer and left him that little bit of room. He might still have to defend here anyway, Pusenko, and does into the bus stop. That was somebody going through the grass. It wasn't the race leader, was it? Rui Felipe all of a sudden is under a lot of pressure here, Cam, and I think Yuval Rosen has at the very least taken the race lead. Maybe they're side by side right now.
Oh, the traffic situation is definitely coming into account here, and they have to definitely work out how they're going to do this. Let's see what Felipe is going to do in terms of coming back at this. Rosen has got their lead. Felipe is, of course, trying to get that slipstream back, but he's just lost so much momentum there. He's sort of 5-6 car lengths behind. When we get in towards the braking zones, the DPi's all go around the outside. They're all 3 of them, as this will get close just a little bit through turn 2, but certainly a big move at the front of the GT3s.
Yeah, my main thing with that is, was Rui Felipe burning a little bit more fuel to kind of pull a bit of a gap in, and now he might have burnt that fuel, or burnt those tyres, and now he hasn't got the gap to what he's invested basically. So there could be a couple of frustrations there for the Portuguese driver. I mean, there will be some anyway, courtesy of losing the race lead. Not quite the same fortunes in the DPi. Enzo Filippo actually used the traffic to pull out even more of a gap. Now out to nearly 4 seconds over Marvin Mackenberg. Again, we'll discuss a little bit the nature of strategy around here, but I will tell you the DPi's, they'll probably be about halfway through that first stint, slightly, probably even more than. The DPi's will have relatively short stints around there. Now that's a livery I can get behind.
What, Filippo, or was that, did I miss?
No, Enzo Filippo, yeah.
Okay.
It's
Yeah.
dark
Identical to
blue and it's
Lewis's.
lime green.
Okay,
Literally,
well,
the things I like on a car, bang.
okay. Well, fair enough. I can't get behind it fully. I'll be honest.
Why not?
It's okay, but not not groundbreaking, not breaking any records for me.
Yeah.
Personally, so sorry about that. But he's doing a good job with it at the moment. 4 seconds the lead ahead of Mackenberg, and yeah, they are probably around halfway in the stint, as you say.
Whoa!
Oh no, Kuhl goes around, and can everyone avoid him? Just about. Another spin in this race, and as you were saying earlier, Cam, it is an endurance race, but you wouldn't know it if you only had watched these 20 minutes.
These guys are absolutely going at it. As we're seeing a little bit further back, this is Gilbert. But look at Rokas DPi coming in way too hot. Goes off the track, avoids 2 cars in the process. But that could have been a big crash there, as he was, of course, trying to work his way back up from the issues there on the lap 1. Gilbert dropping down quite a bit. But that was almost an absolutely hefty crash. As Mish has had some sort of issue because Gilbert's got into P11.
I'm still fuming. I'm still absolutely fuming at the idea of someone who likes a car that is basically just green. Suddenly with a bit more on the car, it's not good enough. It's fine. If it's not a big green monster, it's not good enough for you and O'Leary. Fair enough. Back into the race though, and Rui Felipe really starting to apply the pressure to the back of Yuval Rosen. And it's just about whether you want to go for the now. If you have burnt some of that fuel, probably actually a good idea to sit behind right now and think, I'm going to try and save some of that back. It's not about shaving that pit stop off anymore. I think these drivers, they're doing 2 stops. There's no doubt about it, they are doing 2 stops at this pace. But it's just about shrinking the amount of fuel you need to take on that final stop, which starts even now.
Yeah, I mean, that is, I think, the way that they're going to go with it. That, as you discussed, there is that option to maybe save an inordinate amount of fuel and try and do something and cut out a stop, but is that realistic? Maybe not really. So it looks like we are going to see a lot of pushing here, and how short can you get that final pit stop could be the talking point. Now, it is an interesting moment for Zabdir with regards to that conversation in GT3 about how short's your final stop, can you cut one out? He's right behind Martin Miskovic at the moment here, Cam, and seemingly not that willing to go through, and the slipstream and fuel saving may be 1 or 2 reasons why.
Yeah, they're still in sight of the leaders as well. They've got Ribeiro straight in front, and then just a couple more seconds about Piper, Felipe and Rosen. So they're in a pretty decent position. So yeah, maybe saving a bit of fuel in that slipstream is the best thing you can do at the moment, because those what's that, less than 4 seconds now between them and the front. Those 4 seconds can easily turn around with strategy. So at this point, the best thing actually maybe isn't the pace. It is to put yourself in a better position for strategy later on in the race. So these things really start early, and that's why I actually prefer the 2.4 hours to just a 2-hour race, because that extra 20 odd minutes really just adds that extra bit of a strategy difficulty for the driver, and then you have to really think about it a little bit more. You can't just go flat out easy, one stop.
I've commentated on a lot of champs, but generally when you add an hour and a bit, 2 hours and a bit, that and a bit makes a lot of difference when it comes to strategy, even if it is only 5, 10, 20 minutes, because that will make this, especially around here, which it almost seems a little bit paradoxical, but it's kind of not, is that it is a high fuel burn circuit by yourself. You do burn a lot of fuel around here because you're flat out for a long time. But when you're behind someone, because you're flat out for a long time, because you're in the slipstream for a long time, you can actually save an awful lot of fuel around here, percentage-wise, compared to what you burn. So you can make that really work for you. Back to the race lead of the GT3s, where it is as close as it could be. And Rui Felipe, I just don't believe he's got any want to pass right now, especially whilst they're building the gap to Piper behind.
Really, he doesn't seem to want to go past, and that does surprise me in a way, though, because he was very happy to get out front in this race and try and build a lead, and he did briefly build a lead of a second and more, very briefly. But now that he's sort of been paid back, and I think he was the driver who went over the grass at the bus stop chicane, by the way, on that first run through of traffic, as we see Pfeiffer go off the road from 3rd place. So he was in the conversation there, Cam, although he had been dropped by Rosen and Felipe, but not anymore, now down to 7th.
And what this has done is opened up a huge gap between the two Portuguese drivers of Felipe and Ribeiro for second and third place. There's over 3-second gap now as there's more yellow flags out. Machenda has had a bit of an issue and unfortunately has dropped down the way. He's got back going in that P7, but says he lost quite a few seconds as, oh, look at that. He was way off the road there, still on the apron trying to recover.
I did see this car had been backwards somewhere at some point over the lap. I know Pasemco's also had a couple of problems as well. So clearly these DPIs aren't quite so easy to drive. Yes, they've got all the downforce that you'd want, but that doesn't mean that they've got all the grip that you want when you leave a corner, when you've not got the air running over the car. Back to the race lead in the GT3s, top 5 of each category, separated by a fair margin. Philip Howe 5 seconds clear in the DPIs over Marvin Mackenberg. 3 seconds back is Gontier. Mackenberg keeping quite close, probably saving fuel in the slipstream, also now with D'Amico behind that in the GT3s. Jubel Rosen, Ruud Felipe, Ribeiro, with a very tight watch on Nikiewicz behind, because they have caught back up to Ribeiro, and of course Marius Sabdir. It's Coughlin that's causing the most recent yellow though. We are seeing a lot of those. I'm not going to lie, Ewan, oh my goodness, that was a bit of a look from Ruud Felipe. They only have 50 incident points in this race. As Coughlin retires, I think we might see quite a few disqualifications. We saw 3 in the TCRs and the Milan supports in the race. That was 3 disqualifications. They had 20 instant points to deal with over a 20-minute period. This is a 2-hour 24-minute period, and we've got 50 to deal with. I still think we're going to hit it quite a few times.
Yeah, that is true. The amount of incident points per minute they have is less, but of course things are going to spread out a bit later on. So I actually don't think it's going to be this chaotic for the entire race. We have seen quite a lot going on in the first 20 minutes or so, but you do reach a point in these races where everybody gets quite comfortable. There will be some retirements. We've already had 2, for example. There'll be less cars out there on the circuit periodically as we go through with this as well. So everyone's going to be more comfortable with, first of all, the less amount of cars on the circuit, but also the amount of cars that even we had to start with here. Everyone's going to become a little bit more comfortable with it. So we will see if that becomes the case, if we do get less incident points, or indeed whether we will see some people falling afoul of the incident points. Do you think they will reach 50, Cam? I personally don't. I'm sceptical personally.
There's also the cuts of the chicane as well, the Le Mans chicane. That's quite a big factor, and we're going to be doing over 50 laps. So you've definitely got to be a little bit careful with it over the course of the race. Something that at least that you need to think about is Ribeiro here. In behind is an absolutely huge run from Mikovic, who goes to the outside line as he comes through the trioval. He's got an absolutely huge run. Can he do it in the braking zone though? He comes down just enough, showing you how much that slipstream works. And if you actually do try and go for the overtake, you can make an easy position. So Mikovic there up into 3rd place. Titsum, Pfeiffer as well, also batting in the background. Zabdir's got around and one in the background.
Oh, and then absolutely lights it up to get it back onto the road. Could be the chance for Istvan Tits to get past Piper, but I think it's actually more the other way around. Piper back up in a 5th position, was running 5th earlier on. I know Ewan asked the question to you. I'm going to commit to it as well. I'm going to say I think we're going to have three DQs from this race becoming, which sounds like quite a lot, but I don't know, we'll see.
That's a lot for me. That's 3 more than I would go for.
You don't think anyone's getting it?
No.
That's great. That is crazy. Than you saying that Enzo Philippou's livery is not that good.
I wonder what else I can. What can I say that's worse than those 2 things?
Sebring needs to be repaved.
No. I'll think of it over the next 2 hours and try and come up with it. No, I really don't think there is going to be people doing that, because, as I say, people are going to get comfortable with this race at a certain point. I know it doesn't seem like that at the moment, but they will reach a point where everybody gets a little bit more comfortable with the situation in this race here. But let's wait and see who's right. It's going to turn out that there's going to be like 1 or 2 or a number that none of us have guessed, so that's going to be fun. But anyway, we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. Still the battle for 3rd place going on here, but it feels somewhat artificial at the moment, Cam. They've only just started racing each other, really, these 2. They were side by side last time, but that was for the first time, really.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think this battle is going to continue on. You can see the slipstream just bringing Ribeiro back into the conversation for that third place. They've easily pulled away from the drivers in behind, with the likes of Pfeiffer, Tits Abdir all having some battles and spins in that last lap. The gap's really opening up there. So it's that two-way battle that they need to focus on. But up towards the front of your DPIs, of course, Philip Howe pulling away by over 7 seconds, but in behind, just a couple of tenths separating these two.
Pretty close there with the lead. It might have been Vigneron. Kovalevsky and Orban, by the way, switching over positions in the GT3s. Did see that one. And they continue to switch 13th and 14th. I think that might actually be more to do with bump draft. We do know something in the timer. When you are bump draft, you can switch the positions on the time screen. So there is a little bit of that could be at play as well. So if we see some of those switching around, those switching quite constantly. Got to say though, Enzo Filipao with just unbelievable control of this race, putting that down to 7 seconds. We've only been racing for half an hour. What that does generally mean though in these, I do believe we'll be approaching the pit window fairly soon. We do have the sheet. They're expected to do for the first stint between about 20 and 27 laps. If you're trying to shave a pit stop off though, you need to be on the hards. We don't know what tires they're on at the moment. We'll check that in a second. You need to be on the hards, really, and you need to do 29 laps. That is a lot more than
Yeah, that is quite a few more than what you can actually get away with if you're going for, pushing all the time, maximum pit stops, maximum tyre changes, taking on a little bit of fuel each time, keeping the car light, keeping the car quick. It's a very, very different way of going about this race, as Thomas Gontier leads Marvin Mackenberg into turn 1, and Mackenberg is going to be forced around the outside of the battle between Mickiewicz and Ribeiro, and so just loses out on a second or so as the leading pair to come through on for this battle for second position. But Enzo Filippo here, Cam, is nowhere to be seen. He is absolutely gone in this race lead.
He has lost a little bit of time though in the last lap or so. Gontier has closed down, so I don't think that gap is completely open, and he is dropping down even more. I wonder if Philip Howe's just had a small issue somewhere, but it's going back up. It's diving up there, up the inside. That is so close between those two drivers. Is Cool and Marchena are going side by side now up towards the dogleg. They've got, unfortunately though, Ferrari right in front of them. Up the inside they go. That is huge risk there for Kuhl as he tries to hold on to that 7th position, but sometimes that's needed.
That was so risky. Like I say, it's a little scary when you got that. When you're going up towards that dog leg and you're side by side. Yeah, that was quite close. It was Vutric that they've passed. They've now got past Levana. Next one for them is Vigneron in that Mercedes. And like I say, it's just moments like that is where things get a little bit dicey. When, like I said before, multi-class racing is not super common on RaceRoom. Yeah, it happens a fair few times, don't get me wrong. But it's not super common. We've seen it elsewhere in sim racing where it happens basically every day, and the drivers are so used to it that they basically go through traffic as if they're not even really thinking about it. It looks a little bit more risky, but I never feel like that risk is that high because they're kind of generally aware of what they're doing. In this, sometimes we're just sort of like, oh my god, that is terrifying. Yeah. Sometimes it's very scary to watch.
And probably same for the drivers as well, probably seeing and feeling these things. Are probably very worried about it at certain times as well, and it's always said, isn't it, that the only way to get better at doing multi-class racing and being the faster or the slower class actually in a race is to just do it. You can't really learn any other way. And lots of RaceRoom championships and all of them have great racing in them and close racing, wheel-to-wheel stuff, but that's not multi-class racing. It's not the same. And the only way you can get better at it is by doing it. That's one of the close moments again for Rossi as he tried to make his way through on one of the GT3s. He's got a barrier right behind. That's of course the recovering Frenchman Bertrand Barrier after his spin earlier on in the race.
Yeah, absolutely. He's getting close up towards the western horseshoe to the outside line. He's going to have to go. Rossi holds that inside in the blue and red machine. He's going to be going a little bit wide there for, so the up and under Barrier is going to do. He's going to be to the outside line. This is what it's going to do. It's going to slow down Rossi onto the straight. So this could be important maybe once we get up to the Le Mans chicane. But actually, all the way around the outside, Barrier's going to try and hold it. Don't often see that at that corner, but he's made it work as Rossi has to back down and into P10.
Yeah, Sebastiano Rossi then, obviously losing out there a little bit, not too bad. There was also a switch further up ahead. Sven Mackenberg might have been having some problems. Wow, that was going to be an enormous bump onto the rear, and you can see them in the background. They were definitely bump drafting going through all of that, which is well, and that's why, because they wanted to clear the Porsche, I believe, of Mario Zabdir. That was, to be fair, that was fairly wise driving for Sebastiano Rossi there. Thought about bump drafting rather than going straight back down the inside.
I suppose it's the lesser, the better maybe of the two things to do, but maybe doing neither would have been a good idea. But they all worked out anyway, so it's fine. And it's actually worked out for him very well here, because he's played the long game now, and he wants 9th place back at turn 1. He didn't fully commit to that one, it feels like. He just backed off there early. Maybe the sensible choice, but he certainly wasn't a full-blooded attack into turn 1 on that occasion.
Yeah, sometimes not always needed, which is what you like, as that the battle is, I'm sure, going to reignite at some point a bit later on in the race, as we take a look at your GT3 leader, and that is, of course, Ural Rosen, and he's been able to hold on to that for a little while now. Felipe just dropping off as they get the two red machines of Kuel and Marcella just coming past them, but that has opened up, and of course with the incidents that we had in behind, Felipe's got a big gap in behind him, so doesn't really need to worry about that, but unfortunately for him, Rosen's starting to pull away.
Yeah, indeed, and it's kind of the exact opposite of what we saw at the opening portion of the race, where it was Rui Felipe pulling out that large gap. Ural Rosen is now the one doing it, obviously because I picked him. Who did I pick for DPi? Did I pick Marvin or Sven?
I can't remember.
No, me neither. Absolutely no idea. I'm sure Colin Blankenberg will tell me in chat. But either way, it is looking like a strong lead for Ural Rosen. I don't believe Rui Felipe is quite as good in traffic as Ural Rosen is, and that feels like it should be wrong, because the GT3s, obviously, generally speaking, they just do what they do and get on. Meanwhile, the DPIs are the ones that are making decisions in traffic. But there are things that you can do as a GT3 that make their life a bit easier, like keeping the racing line at the right time, that can make you lose less time in traffic. That's the quickest yellow I've ever seen.
I don't know what that was all about, but yeah, there is ways you can do it. That was not one of them. Rosen, as he went through the chicane, the sort of the right and the left, Felipe will have gained about half a second as a result of that. And Rosen, well, it wasn't entirely his fault, really. It's just a very narrow part of the racetrack, especially when you're talking about the racing line. There really is only one line through there. You can just about make it through side by side, but that was very close to a moment for Rosen, who loses a bit of his lead. It is certainly a skill to be lapped and make things easy for not only those who are lapping you, but also just try and make it a bit easier for yourself. And Pfeiffer did one of them there, but lets the Mazda go straight off into the grass. Not their finest moment there, I think it's fair to say.
Yeah, Gashford Mish there, just not making the brakes. As you see, Rokas DPi is into the...
Say it!
No, he did not miss the apex. He missed the braking zone that time around. And considering you're already a bit low down in the standings, I don't think diving a GT like that is the wisest thing to do. But we certainly have had the first couple of pit stops for Rokas DPi. Is that in the DPi category, and that is on that lap 20, so that is on the earlier side of things, going for the the lighter tank, the faster car throughout the race. Let's see if that does anything to bring him back into it after that first lap incident.
Back to this Kuel and Marchena battle as well. I like the restraint, but something you just got to commit. You just got to commit. You just got to absolutely just go for it. By the way, I did want to talk about tyres a little bit. So just taking a look at the GT3s. They're all in the same tyre. They're all in the hard tyre of the GT3 category. And from what I'm kind of understanding, and it is kind of a fairly well-known thing around Daytona, it is not, whilst we're saying about high on fuel, it is not that high on tyres as, oh my goodness, bye-bye, Marchena not getting anywhere near the apex going into the West Horseshoe and going basically straight on. So now have to fight hard to rejoin the back end of the Dutch driver. Hard tyres, the GT3s, they may not even switch tyres throughout the entire race because it would just cost them time in the pit lane. I don't believe they do fuel tyres at the same time. Back with Nicky a bit under pressure from Ribeiro. In the DPIs, there is a lot more of a switch, although I will say a lot of the the normally higher contingent, the likes of Philippe Gontier, Mackenberg, both of them, and Presenko, the ones that we've seen towards the front for the most part of the DPRs, they're all on the hards. It's only Luca D'Amico in that sort of top 6 that's on the medium tyres, as well as that battle between Tim Kuehl and Daytona. They're also on the mediums. For the most part, they're on hards.
Yeah, but there are different things within that you can do, though. You know, they're not set on one strategy, which is the good thing about having slightly more stops in DPi, is that you can do different things nevertheless, and we're going to have a clearer picture as to what everyone's doing very soon in these pit stop phases which are coming up. This is lap 23 of the race, and unless anybody's done any remarkable fuel saving, they should all be in before 27 based on what Sven Mackenberg has told us, and so we will see in that respect when they're in. I can't see who's actually off the road at the moment on the right hand side. That yellow flag has been cleared, so it seems to be all okay. Wasn't one of the leaders from what I saw, so everyone still running well where they need to be. GT3 once again, Mikovic and Ribeiro still single file into turn 1, and hard to know where they're going to be separated in this case. There's not much differentiation on tyres, on strategy, on the circuit. There's not much between these two so far.
I think Mikovic might be the slightly faster driver, judging by the way he caught up and then overtook, but then he's not fast enough to pull out that 1 second or so gap for Ribeiro to lose the slipstream. So the Porsche and the Audi just continuing their way round. They still had that 5 second gap up ahead, so their pace is actually not too far off the leaders, but they also have a 6 second gap in behind, so Pfeiffer not able to catch up after his little issue earlier. So it's a pretty reasonable situation for them, and I don't think Mikovic is going to be worried too much as we're having Mackenberg and Gontier. Actually, as Gontier, he's had some issues. He's dropped back behind Pasemko as well, as Kluber is also having some issues, so 2 DPIs at once.
Not that livery. I like that livery. Into the pit lane is Gontier. So now we have our answer. First pit stop underway in the DPi category. If we call them, there's starters. To clarify, by the way, because I know some people do ask about when it comes to required pit stops, Gilbert will come down into the pit lane. I think that's what the fast yellow, by the way, was earlier. I think it was Rokas to be coming down the pit lane, because I think Gilbert's done the same thing. It was a very fast yellow. So if we see that, it might be someone coming down the pit lane. There is no mandatory stop in this, which the reason why I bring that up is there's no mandatory number of stops. So you don't have to stop twice. Technically speaking, you don't have to stop at all. So if you really want to do the entire race on 1 tank of fuel, it will be damn slow. Even you and O'Leary could beat you, but it is possible to do it if you can save that level of fuel. You don't have to come into the pit lane. So the strategy is literally whatever you want to do. As there is a look to the inside from Ribeiro.
Why have I been attacked for that then? That's what I want to know.
But why not?
Anyway, oh no, D'Amico! Luca D'Amico off the road in the bus stop chicane, and he needs to be careful. Oh, Luca, don't rejoin like that. He's been hit by one of the McLarens, and now he's only compounded his problems. Now he'll get going again finally. Kuehl and Marchena will both go through, but that was not his finest hour.
That was a terrible rejoin right onto the second part of the bus stop chicane. There's absolutely nothing the traffic in behind could do. They're on full, turning on the absolute limit of grip there. They're not able to slow down in any sort of way. And unfortunately, that is not what you want to do. As Gilbert gets a drive-through penalty, speeding in the pit lane, easy to do around here. And but what's also easy to do is have a small spin. Unfortunately for D'Amico, that is going to cost him dearly.
I'll touch on the first point first, which was I believe, this is going to sound harsh, luckily the drivers that he rejoined in front of D'Amico, I believe they were further down the GT3 category. I'm saying that luckily in the sense that it didn't impact the race victory. It still shouldn't happen. It's a terrible rejoin, and you need to be thrown into the sin bin for that one, because I believe it was Ollie Janssen and Ricardo Rebello that he rejoined in front of towards the back end of the GT3 contingent. And on to the second point about the pit lane. We were talking about this all basically over the last couple of weeks. I've seen quite a lot of racing around Daytona. Actually, the real world Daytona 2.4H and elsewhere in some racing. So it comes the bump drive from the back as Ribeiro's going to try and push out to Mikovic. I still maintain, I think the pit lane here is actually really difficult. It doesn't look difficult, but because it's so wide and open, and there's no major references, it's just very easy to break that a little bit too late, maybe even lock a brake and go straight through speeding.
Yeah, I agree with the part about no major references and so on. It's just tricky in a different way to what we normally consider to, like a maybe a Bathurst or a Fuji, where there's actual walls that you can hit on the way in. That's not the case at Daytona. However, it is a huge stop from almost terminal velocity right down to a pretty slow pit lane in comparison, and there's a prime example. It's such a big stop, and in trying to get, he's come back in front of a barrier by the looks of things. He was trying to get into the pit lane. Now Kuhl will as well, but that could have been a whole lot worse for everybody on the way in. Once again, rearing its head as a pretty difficult pit lane to get onto.
Absolutely, it's the toughest one, as you've been mentioning, and that's the prime example, because if you try and actually brake a bit later, you also lock the wheels, you spin around, and it just causes absolute carnage. That's another not great rejoin, so the drivers need to get a little bit better with the rejoin to that one. But certainly, it's a tough track. It looks easy on paper, and it's a roval road course circuit from the super speedways, but it really isn't an easy one to manage.
Norberg, the next driver to bring out the yellow flag, then a 13th position for GT3. So once again, it pops out match because Enzo Philip-Powers dived his way down onto pit lane from the race lead in the DPIs after 26 laps. So definitely going to be a 3-stop strategy from those that are stopping now. Again, a reminder, if you're in the DPi category and you want to make it through to the end of the race on just 2 stops, you need to pit at basically from what we're working out, what we've been told, you need to pit at the end of lap 29 is when you'll be able to do it on 2 stops. Sven Mackenberg bails and comes down onto pit lane as well. So Marvin Mackenberg will swing round to the head of the DPi field, although typically when one Mackenberg is doing one strategy, the other Mackenberg is generally doing the same strategy. So I would assume Marvin will be in the pit lane fairly shortly.
You'd think so. We are on lap 27 now, after all. This is getting towards the limit for fuel saving, unless, we're not doing outrageous amounts anyway. We will wait to see whether Mackenberg has done just that. But GT3s aren't worried about coming in for quite some time. They're instead worried about fighting with one another. That's Weitzel going round the outside of Rose into 15th position. It's John Rose just in behind, and so a good pass actually from Weitzel right round the outside of turn 1 as Kasper Misch also comes down into the pit lane. Now not many left out on the circuit, having not made a stop.
Yeah, they've gone pretty decent way in this race, as they're trying to go as far as they can. Lap 26 now, we are into that race, so maybe a couple more for those who want, as Gilbert's having some further issues, a couple of laps down after that speeding penalty. So maybe Mackenberg might get those extra couple of laps, might try something. We know they do like doing that, especially I remember at Spa a couple of years ago. And 2.4, of course, that was in GT3s, but also there, unfortunately for Mackenberg, he locks the rears, and it just shows you how easy it is to do.
Yeah, just once you've come down that sort of like the majority of that speed, and you think maybe I'm still going a little bit too fast. It's so hard to not jab the brakes as Sebastiano Rossi. Oh my goodness, that was a big slide coming off of the Le Mans chicane, right into the pathway of everyone, whilst he manages to get back going again without any major troubles. That was very scary indeed. But like I was saying, coming down to pit lane, you're fairly committed on the brakes, and obviously when you get on the brakes the first part, you've got the most downforce on it, so you can get on the brakes right now, you've got the most downforce on the car, so you can get on the brakes really heavily. You kind of have to lift off the brakes quite a bit. Then sometimes you might think, actually going a bit too quick. Then you jab the brakes again. That locks the rear, and round you go. You must have either a constant brake pressure or roll off the brake pedal. You can't put it on, take a little bit off, and then jab it again.
And from what I'm seeing so far, it looks like this Mazda is quite difficult to stop from a high speed anyway, really. We're seeing it okay out on the circuit. I mean, there's probably this biggest stop down in towards turn 1. We haven't really seen the rears locking on the way into there. It hasn't seemed too bad, but when you go into that really low speed, and it seems to be very easy to send this Mazda around. We've seen at least 2 or 3 drivers do that now, but thankfully for the drivers who have, it hasn't put them out the race or anything. In fact, Mackenberg is still 3rd, which I think he'll be pleased with, to be honest, given everything that's just happened.
Yeah, that's true, but he still lost about 7 seconds or so in that battle. But the good thing for him is that the gaps are so big behind that, as you say, keeps in that third place. But it's now a French 1-2 and then a German 3, 4 and 5 as through the middle, and there's Gaspar Misch just dropping down. That's D'Amico getting past him there for what is currently P10, and in the background Marchena trying to hold on to that one, so D'Amico making up some places, but a few, and the final pit stops come in with Rossi and Kluper.
Yeah, last ones in the DPi category then to complete that start. And with it being to the end of lap 27, start at 28, I do not believe any driver on the grid is going for that potential 2-stop race rather than a 3-stop. So, which to be fair was expected coming into this. Whilst it is possible, it is really, really difficult. And realistically speaking, not faster. With the information that we've been told by some of the drivers that it's so we'll have to wait and see. Mazda DPi though still having to deal with Rivera. These two have been very close all the way through the opening portion of the race. And thank you, I think what they're doing slowly, I do believe they might be catching the back of Rui Felipe. They are both definitely dropping though, back off of Yuval Rosen.
He's showing some fantastic pace at the moment, is the leader in the Ferrari. Yuval Rosen having a great time of things, but it's to be expected, isn't it really, that Felipe is losing time, because he is on his own compared to those two who've been basically bump drafting for a while. They're not at the moment. Mišković is having a bit of a better lap right now. Ribeiro is in the 4th position, but there's Rosen 3-4 seconds out in the lead right now. That's, it's a decent gap, but it's not an unbridgeable gap for the remainder of this race. There's still plenty of time for this to change.
Absolutely, but I mean, his last lap was a lot faster than Felipe by over half a second, so he's got some really, really good pace in that car at this moment in time. And yeah, he's just a few tenths of a second really off the best time, so he's been so consistent, and he's just opening up that gap, so he's doing a really good job. He's in the background. Rossi is having a bit of a terrible run there, might be losing positions. Barrier is trying to get past with Gilbert, I should say. I think actually he's a lap down, my bad. But Rossi is still obviously trying to recover a little bit and get back into the rhythm after the sort of the massive spin that he had coming off the Le Mans chicane.
Yeah, I believe Bertrand Barrier is a little bit further ahead of him on the road. You are absolutely right. I think it is Gilbert as we look to Gaspar Misch and the hard charge of Marchena on their way back up the order after the issues we saw a bit earlier on. Had potentially a couple of spins, definitely had one large spin, a couple of spins with that as well, and down to 11th position. Tyres, I believe they're all now on the hards in this, and that is an absolutely delightful move. That was clean, that was beautiful, that was straight around the outside.
It is always nice to see those executed, and there you go. So Marchena ahead of Gaspar Misch, and they look like they're about to embark on Rokas Tabir, who's gone off at the bus stop, and he has. There he is in the pink Mazda off the road, and Sebastiano Rossi is going to go straight through into 7th place. Rokas Tabir drops to 8th, just behind, or just ahead of those guys still, but now he drops to nearly a minute off the leader already.
I mean, I was expecting a few incidents here and there in this race, but there's been a lot more in the first half than I was thinking. I mean, there's multiple drivers we've seen have issues at the Le Mans chicane, especially in the DPi category that has all that downforce. You'd think that it would be slightly easier, but definitely not. They're really pushing the limits. Now we've seen sort of 3-4 drivers there having some big crashes as well. They're not just little ones, so definitely an interesting one, how that's going to open up over the course of the second half of this 2.4 hours. I have to try and calm that one down a little bit, because they're giving some other drivers free positions. I mean, Barrier, he's jumped up quite a lot from some other people's issues. As off at turn 1, I think that's Marchena going wide.
Yeah, I mean, you got to remember, going through the bus stop, as much as these cars have got all the downforce that you want, they're also really stiff. And the problem with that is when you've got something really stiff in your hands, you kind of go through the bus stop, and it's just, you take a little bit too much curb, and you can go round straight away. And the snap is so aggressive and so brutal, it's uncatchable. You just hit that curb and you're round, or you just don't stop the car at all. Second corner on this lap alone for Marchena, there as he's trying to navigate his way past Rui Felipe there in the GT3 car.
Thankfully for him, Gaspar Misch was nowhere near close enough to take advantage of that, because he very much would have been punished if he was. But Gaspar Misch is struggling a bit. Pasemko has had a problem into turn 1 now by the looks of it. There he is, He's gone for a spin. I said earlier that they seem to have done okay on the breakthrough there. Well, that's gone out of the window now. Pasemko back to 5th place, and his chase of Sven Mackenberg has to be put on hold for a while now.
Yeah, it's so crazy to see the amount of incidents that are coming in. It's every couple of laps we've seen another driver go for that, but we have some battles reignite themselves a little bit lower down. This is Rose, got a Weitzel just in behind in that Ferrari, trying to chase him down in towards the Western Horseshoe. Does break a little bit later than Rose, but can Rose still make it to the apex? Yes, he does, just about, as they try and battle their way through. Might be for 15th place, but it doesn't matter. When you're a driver, you only see the cars around you, and he's trying to hold on into a semi-respectable position up there. Still less than a minute off the lead as well, as this battle with Mish is continuing on with his struggles in this race.
It's a semi-respectable position. I kind of think that anyone getting to the end of this race at this point is doing something semi-respectable. That said, we are 50 minutes into this race, and we do only have the 2 retirements that you see, and those are both in the GT3 category. Ferdinand Coughlin and Marcel Lurken, of course, who is on double duty, was in the race prior, and yeah, unfortunately on this one, a retirement didn't go too well on that one, didn't go too well on this one either. But those 2 are the only 2 retirements from this. I do believe we'll see more added to this, as Gaspar Misch struggling to come back out onto NASCAR 1 and 2. But yeah, I still wonder how many people got like fairly high in the instant thing, because I don't believe that there isn't someone fairly close.
Well, based on the fact that this has continued, maybe that is to be the case. But still, we haven't seen anybody yet. But we're still early in this race. Still an hour and a half remaining here, so plenty of time for that to come true. And based on the way that the incidents have continued to happen, maybe we will see disqualifications by the end of the day. But as I say, we've got a long time to wait and find out. Now, this is what I was waiting for to happen. Rui Felipe being caught by Miskovic and Ribeiro. Well, actually, it's only Miskovic who's caught, really. Somehow, the driver of this Porsche has left Ribeiro in his wake, and he's going to overtake Rui Felipe into turn 1.
Oh, huge contact though, and there's Felipe going onto the grass. He manages to recover that. Oh my word, that could have been a huge accident, but somehow he kept it in line. But Miskovic doing an overly aggressive overtake. He didn't need to risk it that much. He had the overspeed, he had the position done, but fortunately Felipe is going to continue on in this race. But I think this just proves the pace that Miskovic has. As soon as he got away, he got Ribeiro out of the slipstream, he was able to put away, and he might be able to do the same this time with Felipe.
But it's 5 seconds, though, up to the next driver of Yuval Rosen. That is a huge, huge margin. Not one that's going to be closed down too quickly. And I mean, to be fair, I'm surprised he was able to close up to Rui Felipe. Like, it almost kind of felt like it happened very, very quickly. But we'll have to wait and see. Maybe there was a little bit of lap traffic in there. Who knows? Maybe it was just some very good lapping. Maybe it's other drivers' tyres falling off a little bit. I still would be surprised if we're seeing any tyre issues within that category, as Janssen is the next one to have problems, or that might be because he's come down the pit lane. He has come down the pit lane. So we're already seeing a couple of the GT3s come into pit lane straight away. And to be fair, considering we're expecting this to be a 2-stop race, whilst typically we'd expect the GT3s to go for an hour. Oh, that's dear. That's poor. That is poor from Barriere, just sending one straight down the inside of road. What I was going to say is, whilst you're expecting to come down twice, you might as well split it a bit more equally, rather than just, I'm going to go as long as the full tank will go, and then as long as the full tank will go, then it's on.
Well, yeah, it depends what you're doing with your tyres a little bit, but if we're guessing that they're going to do just, one race, or the whole race on one set of tyres, and I guess you can sort of do what you like in that respect. But if it was me, I would do something a little bit more like what Janssen's done, sort of split this race into thirds, and then keep the car as light as possible for the duration if you can. It sort of keeps your speed as quick as possible throughout the duration of the race, rather than filling up full, as you say. So we'll see who decides to do what. I guess some of it's going to come down to strategy with those who you're around as well. Will Miskovic want to get away from the likes of Felipe by pitting here pretty soon? Will Rosen want to keep on to the lead for as long as possible and stay out until you no longer can? I mean, all these things have got to be factored in too.
I wouldn't be surprised if we see a couple of early pit stops, but in most of these races that we see, the longer you go, the better, because it just makes the rest of your race easy. You do the hard bit now, and then the easier laps and the easier strategy will come later on in the race. And going to Mikovic, yeah, I definitely think he's going to want to do something in strategy to try and get Felipe out of his slipstream there in the background. It's getting close. It is getting close to being out of that slipstream. Not quite enough, still enough just to pull that McLaren along. But yeah, I think these guys will try and go a few more laps before pitting, trying to get over the hour mark in the race. So still maybe another 2 laps.
Yeah, by the way, just to, I am doing that, it's fine. The Bertrand Barrier, I do apologise. I feel stranded that, saying that it was him. No, it wasn't. Thankfully, Chris, our broadcast director, was straight on that it was actually Ella Gilbert, who is quite a few laps down. Almost going quite a few laps down, considering the little bits of contact there, which even Rosen will come down the pit lane. Sebastiano Rossi feeling the pressure from Rokas to be nearly contact between the pair of them. Fair, those two, these two aren't that far away from going a lap down themselves, courtesy of the rapid pace that Enzo Filippo is putting on around here. You can see that damage on the front end of Rokas to B's car, working down into the Le Mans chicane, which is where he came a cropper. Yeah,
completely crumpled at the front as he got himself to the right-hand side there as we were looking at it of the road. Unfortunate, really, but he's dealt with it, and he's now back to 7th at least on his recovery drive. There is a very big gap, though, to the top 5 from where he is. That's going to be his main problem today. Can he catch that half minute? Can he even keep Sebastiano Rossi behind him? That's his next job as he goes in towards turn 1. Slightly put off, I think, by the lap car there. Sebastiano Rossi decides not to attempt the overtake at this moment, and probably wisely so.
To be pit so early, so is that going to hinder him later on in the race? Of course, it's giving him some track position now, and yeah, and it's obviously works, but I don't know, as Machena has a bit of an issue in turn 1. Was there contact with Akil as well? They were obviously very close to each other, batting for that position, but now Machena dropping back and Akil into P10.
They're basically battling for an hour, so if there was contact in that, to be fair, I wouldn't be too surprised, because it's sort of like, yeah, well, fair enough. They've been battling for long enough, and now drops, like you say, back down to 11th position, and nearly a lap down with it. Back into now the lead of the GT3s, as Matej Mikovic and Rui Felipe run first and second. Will there be an entrance onto pit lane? The answer to the question is no. Rui Felipe not even getting close to Matej Mikovic's car, courtesy of a bit of a lift there going through 3 and 4. I do believe Ribeiro, though, is into the pit lane. So the Audi R8 will come down, making it get another stop.
Hang on. Sorry.
Yeah.
Have you just seen the same thing?
Yeah, that Yuval Rosen's got 2 stops next, isn't it?
Yeah, why is that? And why is he only 45 seconds having done that? 45 seconds behind. It's got to be some sort of error, yeah. So we'll find out when Ribeiro, if Ribeiro comes out just behind him, then we'll know, I suppose. But yeah, that's an odd one for Rosen, who's down in 13th currently. But obviously those positions will change because we're nearly an hour in now. So GT3 pit stops have got to become more common very soon. There's Marchena still in 11th position. He looks like he's back up and running with no problems. Let's see how he does turn 1. After his spin on the previous lap. It's always a nerve-wracking moment, coming back down from the high speed after getting it wrong first time. Looks like he's all okay. And so, yeah, battle for the race lead in GT3 is the next focus. And I mean, this will be the focus for a lot of the race here, Cam. I've got to say, this is the class where race lead changes are way more likely than in the other class at this stage, if we're honest.
Oh, absolutely. It definitely looks like it's going to be these battles continuing on. But of course, with the pit stops coming, that might spread things out just a little bit. And talking of spreading things out, Ribeiro, he's lost quite a bit of time to Rosen, hasn't he, at this pit stop? But that gap is absolutely massive compared to what we saw before. So definitely interesting things going on with Rosen over the next couple of laps. We'll wait for that to work itself out. Over the course of the pit stop sequence, as Mikovic, I should say, comes into the pit lane. Felipe stays out to retake that race lead, but let's see how it works out for him. Of course, he'll be in a lighter car now.
I do believe, by the way, I think Ribeiro took tyres, and I do not believe Yuval Rosen took tyres. I think that's where that gap is so much larger. I think because there was no change of tyres. Because we should say, like I say, you can take the tyres all the way to the end of the race. And I believe, again, it's old school rules as Mary Shabdir also comes to the pit lane. I believe, and Gaspar Misch, what's happened to Gaspar Misch? 12th position at the moment. Yellow flag has come out. That is not a pit entry for Gaspar Misch. That is something else. Kovalevsky will work his way down the pit lane. Yeah, I think it's old school rules. You don't change tyres and fuel at the same time, which is how we like it.
Oh yeah, it absolutely is. It's not old school though. It still happens, just not in America.
Yeah,
so
it's Sabin Weck.
Oh yeah. They changed it one season and then thought this is terrible,
Yeah,
and then
good,
changed it back again.
I love him, sir. It is the worst thing.
Well, here's the thing, right? That I've had a theory with that, and I believe I'm correct in it. But it's objective, I suppose. It only works as Marchena is trying to find his way back onto the road again here after getting the power down too early out of the horseshoe. It only works in IMSA, in my opinion, because there's so many cautions and it keeps everyone close together. But if that was not the case, then it would be the most infuriating rule they have.
The thing for me, though, is back in the day, when they did have it separately, one of the things, it's about safety. So at some point that obviously got disregarded. So obviously it probably was an entertainment-based thing. But as you say, in the shorter formats with the cautions, it makes sense. It does make sense. But when you have the longer formats with only really the full course yellows, nothing really bunching the pack up, it does, sort of spread out the field a little bit more as Felipe comes into the pit lane from the lead of your GT3 category, but still quite a few drivers, 6 drivers still out there on the circuit, but Pfeiffer following him in as well.
Yeah, and obviously you can see there with the gap, Yuval Rosen to Mikiewicz. I do believe we'll see Felipe and Pfeiffer drop in behind, comfortably behind Yuval Rosen. So I do believe that as much as it says that he's made 2 stops, he has definitely only made 1. Because it will come up that you've made a second stop if you've come in for a drive. But I don't believe he's come for a drive to be further. He'd be much further down the order, as we'll see right there, also into the pit lane. So yeah, I think it's just, to be honest, I think it's just a timing bug. So we'll not be too worried about that one because he's still looking very strong.
Yeah, still looking very good, and that's not a mistake either. Rebelo hasn't made a pit stop, even though he is still behind some of those who have. So that's not a mistake either. Now Felipe's out very quickly. That's a very good stop for the Portuguese driver. So there's been some real variations as to what's going on. This is going to take us quite some time to unpack all of this because there's been all sorts going on. Felipe's stop was by far the shortest. Rosen's was quite short. Mikiewicz, I think, had the same length of stop as Rosen, but we've certainly seen a longer stop from Ribeiro, who's suddenly 30 seconds further behind his previous rivals. This is going to take a lot of figuring out.
Certainly is. I guess Felipe under fuel to get the track position and try and hold him up as side by side in towards turn 1 we go as we try and have this battle through the very far chicane as Titsen the Ferrari tries to battle his way on as Jabdir in the back in that Porsche trying to get through. Of course, these two having some issues a little bit further earlier in the race, and now they're batting down in P7, but Titsen manages to hold on this time around, but that was definitely at least a good opportunity.
Yeah, just quite able to pass him out. I say Marish, I don't know, he's not quite seemed like the same drive that we've normally seen. Like I say, to be fair, part of it might be because he's not in his trusty McLaren 720. I do remember him racing a lot in that, and in fact going quite well around here in that car. To be fair, that might have even been a couple of years ago. And the field changes in strength all of the time, including growing. Some drivers drop back and they're not as good as they used to be. Guilty, but for the most part, the fields are always getting stronger, especially in these ranked events. They always get that little bit stronger year on year, which is obviously great for us.
Yeah, and certainly got a lot closer. Even this is the 3rd time that I've done this race. And do you remember the first year? I don't think you did it, Lewis, but Alessandro Ottaviani completely destroyed everybody in GTE or whatever it was called back then in the Porsche. Completely won by ages, and beat some of the prototypes along the way, which had problems. So it did very well, but it's much less likely to see that in this field. Both of the leading gaps are below 10 seconds, and that's despite all the strategical interest we've had in this race, which has already got us thinking here. and it's going to keep us thinking about GT3 right to the very end, certainly.
As we had the final couple of pit stops, Vigneron and Rebello come into the pit lane. So every driver out there has come in, and also Rokas DPi, second pit stop already. He comes in, so he did have that really early stop. He's sort of gone up in the order, but now he's going to go back down, and now he has the same stops to the end as everyone else. So there's going to be an interest on how that works itself out by the end of the race.
Indeed. Sebastiano Rossi, it's a big snap as well. Thankfully, he was able to catch that one. That was a brutal catch. Like I say, as much as we're focused on GT3 and the interesting strategy now, I don't think anything's happening in the DPIs. When it comes to the race lead, at least, I think Enzo Filippo's got such a strong hold on the grid right now. And just, he's in full cruise mode right now, just ticking off the corners, ticking off the laps. The only thing that's going to catch him out is complacency, or maybe being just blown away by this beautiful livery. If the Carlin team, rest in peace, if the Carlin team had a livery on a DPi, it would look like that, which is kind of why I like it. I always used to like the Carlin, like Formula 2, Formula GT3 liveries. I always thought they looked really good when they were dark blue, had white, and had the green highlight.
Well, I'm not saying it's a bad livery, yeah, but it's not my favourite in the world either.
But you just like a green car. It's just a green car. It's a green Porsche.
Yeah, well, yeah, that is true. But it's nice. I don't know how else to...
Lewis thinks that's nice.
Well, yeah, no, I'm not saying he can't, because it's fine, but it's just not my favourite.
Subjective.
Yeah, well, that is true as well.
Do you remember he liked that Arnage? Was it Arnage Network?
Arnage Brabham.
Brabham. Sorry, yeah, no, it's Arnage and Brabham. To clarify,
that was controversial.
It's a car that has British racing green, gold, white, pink, and black.
I got pelters for that.
Yeah, you did.
Well, that's fine, because yeah, it's subjective. But on the point of him, just in cruise control, just look at how smoothly he is. We were briefly on board with him there a couple of moments ago, and we've seen some of the others in the DPi category and in GT3 as well. Just watch how smooth when we're following Enzo Filippo. Watch how smooth he is on the braking, on the turning, on the exit. He's not correcting all the way through. He's not having two goes at it. It's just one go at it, one way out. A little bit of a slide on the way out there, but that's okay. He needs to be testing the traction control at some point. Not much you can do at this point, but through the bus stop, he's just guiding it one way, then the other. He's just he's just feeding the car through all of these corners and driving perfectly at the moment. You can tell he's in the lead, and you can tell he's in control of this car.
Smooth is fast. It's the quickest way through the corners.
Oh no!
Oh no! The commentator's curse has happened as he goes into the wall at the Le Mans chicane. As we're saying how smooth he's being, he goes into a hard and he still stops there, clattering the curb on the entry, maybe waiting for some cars to go past. But that is going to completely change the race as Gontier takes the lead.
And still, we do not believe it. Well, you might do. We don't believe in the commentator's curse here. He just took too much curb. That's what it was. It was a driver's mistake. We said about how stiff those DPIs were, and Enzo Filippo is out of the race. So all that time of talking about how the DPIs, and this, that, and the other, and what could possibly happen, and how maybe it's boring or whatever, and it's not going to have the race lead. Gontier now has the race lead. The driver who, by the way, had the worst start of all of the cars, now has the race lead. That's crazy.
That is unbelievable.
It is a good example.
I can't believe I've been caught saying that. That's unbelievable. Oh no. I'm going to have to apologise to him really, because that was.
There's still no such thing.
I've just experienced evidence. Never mind seen it. I've just experienced evidence. Wow. Well, that's going to be that's a dramatic moment if ever I've seen one. Enzo Filippo, he just looked. It looked like not even a hurricane could have unsettled him, to be honest. He was so comfortable. He was driving so well, but unfortunately just gets onto that curb. And some people, I did see some people actually on YouTube talking earlier on about the curbs and how deadly they were at the bus stop. I wasn't quite sure which one, but I think I do know which one now.
That is one of the funniest things I've seen in a long time. We're just talking them up so much. And as you say, that entry curb, just seem to unsettle the car, but it's not just unsettling the car, it just completely loses all grip from it. It's not just like it's a little bump and you have a bit of a wobble, you catch back. As soon as it hits that bump, the car just goes around. We've seen that 3-4 times already this race, so you have to be so on the limit. And after come up to halfway through the race now, so 1.2 hours into the race, and you start getting into the rhythm, but maybe you just lose that tiny bit of concentration, just enough to spin out the car. And the worst part was, it's not even he's had the spin and whatnot, but he's DNF from the race as well. From an easy victory today, he's now going home with his head in his hands.
Yeah, I mean, so I am obviously reading in chat, I'm seeing what Colin Blankenberg and what I'm saying is that there might have been something else in there, but I don't know. It did look, with how that spin happened, it does look as though it's the rear left wheel that's clipped the curb. That's then sent it around, because the problem with the Daytona curbs is, you can see it here, is that you've got the flat part of the curb and then you've got a raised curb, not just on the side, you've got a raised curb in the middle of the curb, which I think is a horrific design, by the way, because it's just about wide enough that if you want to cut the corner, you can do so, because your wheels will go either side of it. What that means is that you're in the danger zone. But yeah, I don't know. That is that's brutal. There we go. For scientific research, we now have to big up Gontier. He's doing a great job.
Not how it works.
He's in a fantastic.
Then you're forcing it.
No, don't start with this, Cam. Just don't. It doesn't exist. It's total rubbish.
By the way, Filippo just also mentioned in the chat, he lost the car as if he was hit by someone. That's how severe and quick it was. And I mean, it did look like that. I mean, yeah, this Mazda doesn't often snap in a way that you can save it, to be fair. It's pretty difficult to bring it back from a point like that, but even so, it doesn't seem to happen at other points on the circuit very often. Instead, it's mainly at those action points, the bus stop being one of them. Down here at turn 1 seems to be a slight problem on occasion as well. But what a shame that is for Filippo. Clearly very frustrated, and now it's time to run on board with Gontier and see what happens next.
Absolutely. Let's try and see if we can view any sort of smooth driving from another Frenchman now.
And now you're trying to catch him, are you?
Yeah, no, I'm not going. Because it doesn't work that way. It's when it comes up out of the blue and you're not even thinking about it consciously. That's when it happens. I'm sure Thomas will be able to show us a lovely lap. But yeah, the smoothness that we were talking about back then, I think it's the perfect, the perfect way of just explaining it is, you want to have the car as straight as possible, but obviously you have to turn to go around the corner. But if you take the widest arc possible and you don't steer the car, you keep it smooth, you get the car planted, you're not sliding, you're not losing speed that way, and you just go through it the perfect racing line. Of course, that's the fastest way to do it, but to have the ability and the technique to be able to do that, to brake on the limit, to get the car in the right places, that really takes some skill.
I don't know if you saw on the wheel of Gontier there. I wonder if we can ride back on board with Gontier where we can see his actual racing wheel. Because, Cam, I want you to read part of it, which would be the button that's in the top right. I'd like you to read that. If we do get an onboard again, I want you to read that. And that is what everyone that believes in the commentator's curse is. What does it say? What does that say in the top right of the wheel?
Remain. Oh, the wheel.
A wheel.
Dim. Sorry.
That really was dim.
Exactly.
Remain at the top, not the top right of the screen, the top right of the wheel. Kloopers have a bit of a problem, regards, but it's a couple of laps down, so that's fine. Wow, that was impressive, Cam. Thank you so much.
So I'm so glad I wasn't talking at the time, because I did exactly the same thing.
Oh no.
I just heard top right, so I was looking up there.
Yeah,
top right of the wheel. Oh my goodness.
That's a good clip.
I'm speechless with you two.
We're both dim too, as it turns out.
Do you believe in the commentator's curse yet?
Well, I didn't until then.
Oh, there you go. You're adding to the dim list. It's fine. But either way, we'll refocus on the race at hand. Of course, with pit stops still awaiting to come in for the DPIs. It really is the start of that second pit window sequence. Now for the next sort of 10 or so laps, we are expecting quite a few of those drivers to work their way into pit lane. Of course, we know they're going to be doing 3-stop races. GT3s, though, they're doing 2 stop races. They've only got 1 more left to go.
it's a case of when these pit stops are going to be now, really. Rokas DPi has kind of kicked off this next cycle in DPi, but it's that stage of the race where we're in the middle, and it's the variations are pretty large at this stage. Everyone's going to sort of go out and do their own thing and on their own strategy, and it will all come back together at the end, and we'll see where everybody is. Thomas Gontier is now going to get into the pit lane again for the second time. So from the lead, he'll make his pit stop, second pit stop of the day, but certainly not his last. But was that someone just sideways on pit lane, or was I misdoing that? Possibly. And Mackenberg follows him in also, and so it's very much the time to be in DPi. But there's still a lot of interest left in this race, although it seems that everyone has reverted to almost doing exactly the same thing in DPi so far.
Yeah, seems that that's the best way to go. And yeah, as you say, Mish coming in as well. But as you say, Ewan, they are going to need to take another pit stop, about 45 minutes or so, maybe 43 minutes to be more exact is the stint length. So they are going to need to take 25 minutes of fuel at the end. We go side by side in towards the braking zone. Kuhl on the outside, Rossi on the inside. He has to back out of that one as Kuhl goes up into 7th place. They do have about 10-second gap up ahead, so this is the battle to focus on. Let's see if Rossi can come back and slip through.
There's an FYI on that. You see that the sideways in the pit lane was ends up in it. That's it was started because they're retired from the race. I don't know if they're colliding. I don't believe they're colliding in the pit lane in that scenario. If they are, why not? It's a chicane. Why not? It'd be more. I think it'd be more fitter if it was Bertrand Barriere in the pit lane. As Gontier, race leader in the DPIs, now receives a drive-through penalty for speeding in the pit lane whilst I was telling jokes. Meanwhile, Sebastiano Rossi is able to get his way past Kuhl.
Well, that was handed to him really for Rossi, so he goes through into 6th place. But the bigger news, certainly, Thomas Gontier with a drive-through penalty. 5th place right now, but he was leading, and he only had 10 seconds over Mackenberg, so surely he will lose this race lead, and certainly Marvin Mackenberg will be the new race leader.
And then is he going to find a way to lose it as well? Does anyone want to win this race today? We've seen pretty much all drivers having some sort of issue over the course of the race, and it just shows you how difficult these sort of longer single driver races are. As Mackenberg, as you say, taking the lead as he goes down the inside there in towards the Western Horseshoe. The door opens up and he certainly goes a little bit more tight, but of course he's got a huge gap, 16.5 seconds to Pasemko, but more pit stops are coming the way of these drivers between now and probably the top of the hour.
Look, if the commentator's curse is in fact real, then Marvin Mackenberg cannot win this race, because if you remember back, he was my pick. And if he wins, if Evil Razor wins, then you both have to accept the commentator's curse. It's so rubbish. But that's an hour and 6 minutes down the road. Ewan, what do you think of this livery? I'm so sorry to Chris, our broadcast director. Just tracking him all over the place. What do you think of that livery?
I like that.
Points out of 10.
Oh, out of 10, maybe an 8, 7, 8.
Yeah, okay. I accept that. I really like this one. It's got the yellow highlights and it's got pink on it.
Yeah, it's cool. Nice bright colours as well. Easy to pick out, which I'm a fan of as well. So yeah, nice. 7 or 8 out of 10 for me on that one. As Mackenberg comes in, by the way. Not bad at all. So a lot of these Mazda liveries actually pretty decent. Good. I'm just not, I'm not crazy for the Lipo one. That's all.
It's Carlin-esque. What do you think, Cam?
I like this one, but obviously there's the inverted livery. So Mackenberg has the pink front, blue rear, and this is the blue front, pink rear. I'm not sure overall which one I like because they clash massively. But the fact that you can see the pink makes a huge difference as Pasemko takes the lead. Virgil Mackenberg, as you say, coming into the pit.
I think blue front, pink body is much better than pink front, blue body. I don't like Marvin Mackenberg's even remotely as much. As we'll see these side by side work their way through, and Kuhl will take over 6th position, nice and tidy there. I do expect we will see quite a lot of these drivers into pit lane. They can, considering they were doing quite a lot, 26, 27 lap stints in the first run, so they can go into 3 or 4 laps.
In theory, yeah. I think Mackenberg was one of those who stayed out longest though, and he's already been in, so it can't be long now until Pasemko, Barriere, D'Amico come in, for example. Some of the others are a bit too far down to really feature inside the podium places even now, but there goes Gontier. In fact, he's even lost time in this pit stop cycle. Not only is he going to lose the lead because I don't believe he's been through his drive-through yet, but he's also barely ahead of Marvin Mackenberg anyway.
Yeah, it's getting tight up towards the front, but as you say, he's going to have to come back in once more and he'll lose even more time, so he's probably going to go down to something like 7th position or something like that by the time it all works out. So that's a big loss from your class leader, but obviously pre those pit stops. And it just goes to show once more how difficult this pit lane is today. And the Daytona road course is so difficult. And is that another one coming in? Yes, it is. Pasemko now from the lead. He comes into the pit lane. Let's see what the gap is going to be between him and Mackenberg when they come out. But the gaps, they do go up and down and all over the place in this category. No one is having a really consistent race.
No, exactly. And also even the whole nailing of the strategy. That's not easy to make sure that you're getting that one ticked off and done right. It's really tricky to piece your way through it and build on the scenario. But yeah, like I said, we'll have to wait and see as to who's going to come out on top in all this. Still got an hour and 3 minutes left to go in this one. So we're about an hour and a half down in the racing for as we'll see Pasemko drop back. The barrier is going to remain out on the circuit. Plus, it's not too much of a shock right now. But yeah, just big dramas. I think that said the big one is really Gontier, who has now returned into pit lane for that drive through. Oh my goodness, really absolutely clean Mario Sabdo off the road.
Just quite close, but he's okay. Still third, and there was no contact, so everybody gets away with it. Now, where's Gontier going to get to then after this drive through? He's dropped below both Mackenbergs. Is he going to get out ahead of Pasemko? No. Is he going to be ahead of Rokas to be? Just about. So it looks like 4th place for Gontier, although we're not sure about Barrier and D'Amico and where they're going to come out after their second stops of the day, because they've still yet to make them.
Yes, certainly. So there's still strategic battles that we are waiting to uncover, but that is why we do like these races where there's a bit more strategy, a few more pit stops involved, because especially when it's not just 1 or 2, when it's actually 3, you can offset either of the strategies. You could do a short in the second stint, short in the third, maybe short in the fourth, something like that. And if drivers go a few laps here or there, they can quite easily, quite quickly change some things around. But in terms of tyres, every single driver is on the hard tyres except Kuhl and Looper, using those mediums in the DPi category. So tyre-wise, not so much difference, but maybe the fuel is where we're going to see it. As Rossi's had another issue from 5th place, Sven Mackenberg gets in, and it is at the chicane once more.
Seen yet another one having issues going through that chicane. And like you say, we're adding to the list. We certainly had a few since what the first one was. Rokas to be, was it, going through? And so it's in plenty add to the list, whether it is to do with the curb or something even more sinister going through that chicane as the pit stop are underway. D'Amico, Barrier, Kuhl all in the pit lane. So really only we're waiting Sebastiano Rossi and Marchena.
And Rossi was one of the last ones to come in under the last cycle, so I'd imagine it's going to be a while, although I think he did spin on his in-lap as well, didn't he, last time? Someone else, but yeah, he did leave it a long time. Marchena's not been in yet though, so we'll see when that happens. Gontier makes his way past all of those who pit just around about now, so I reckon he'll be into 4th place here once all these pit stops cycle out, but he's 27 seconds off the race lead, and he's made his task of winning this one exceptionally difficult.
Yeah, the drive-through wasn't quite as long as I was expecting, so that's a good thing for him. But as you say, I mean, that's a lot of time. We've seen some of the gaps, even in GT3s, when there's been a little bit more pace. It's only got up to about 6 seconds. So to get 27 over someone, the likes of Marvin Mackenberg, that's going to be a big ask for him to try and come back from that one. As Barrier and Kuhl in the pit stop this time around to be jumping back up into that 8th place. So certainly a lot of things still to be worked out, but it's looking, we're starting to see our favourites as we hit the final hour.
Yeah, it's deep. So there's still so much more to work through in this race. As Barrier adding to the list of drivers have got to return to pit lane. It is easily done, but then obviously we know the whole thing. We say it all the time. The worst thing that you can do is get a drive-through penalty for speeding in the pit lane while serving a drive-through penalty for speeding in the pit lane. Really easy to do around here. I have done that at a circuit once. It was Silverstone. And yes, I hated myself. So at least there's that.
So that's the most infuriating thing I can imagine, actually. Kewell does, well, not exactly that, but he might be about to. He's just going to drive through for his second stop of the day, so that's going to drop him down probably behind Klupar and maybe Gilbert as well in the 12th position. Not Gaspar Miss, though, unfortunately, who's just too far back. It's getting pretty spread out in DPi at the moment, although it is relatively impressive that we still have the top 6 covered by half a minute.
Yeah, it's still fairly close in that regard, and with the rate of incidents that we've seen, I wouldn't be surprised actually if that changes once more between now and the end of the race. I don't think we're going to get a regular race, that is for sure, but we do have the 3 Germans leading the way, 20 seconds covering your podium, but in behind it is looking very close, just 7 seconds covering 3rd to 6th place. And of course Gontier needs to be getting past a few of those drivers, but we are waiting for 2 of them actually to make the pit stop. So it's just 7 seconds for Gontier to get back on the podium.
Yeah, barrier back in, by the way. What were you going to say, yeah?
Sorry about that. I heard someone stop talking. And I thought it must be my turn because I'm dim.
Yeah, I was going to say, do we need to have an onboard again? And,
we need an onboard, please.
Just to see the dim button. It's not even a button. I think it's a roller as well. Whereas Kewell will make his way back in the pit lane as well for his drive-through penalty. So a couple of those being picked off. I believe Sebastiano Rossi and Marcello might work their way down onto pit lane. Not this time, as they work their way past Vigneron. But that is fine. It will be Marcello's turn to come into pit lanes. We're just waiting for Sebastiano Rossi and technically Klupar as well. But a little bit too far back. Now it's your turn.
Thanks. Should make that clearer. Yeah, he's probably going to drop like down actually as well, which kind of gives you an idea of where he's got to in this race. Unfortunately, I do wonder a little bit what Rossi's doing with these such long stints. I mean, he isn't going to cut out a stop, but he is going to make his final stop very short. He's on hard tyres at the moment. Does that tell us anything? Well, I'd hesitate to say it really tells us very much at all about what he's trying to do here, to be honest. It's pretty puzzling when everyone else is sort of evenly splitting this into quarters. It kind of feels like the best way to go, both in terms of keeping your tyres where they need to be, but also keeping fuel levels as low as you reasonably can.
Yeah, in theory, on paper, the best way to do it is by going 3 long stints and 1 short. But, as you say, if tyres start wearing at the end of the stint, it might actually be worth to do the underfueling situation, because then you actually get an undercut twice as well, which is very, very important. So I guess we'll have to see when we get to that final pit stop. If he's 5-10 seconds behind someone, maybe he finds a jump. But I think anything more than that, even just 5 seconds, is probably what it's going to be. And having said that, though, he is only about 10 minutes of fuel he's going to need if he pits this lap, but he continues on, so his final stint is going to be very, very short.
Yeah, exactly. But you never really know because, well, I mean, you do kind of know. It's going to be a very, very short splash gas, considering the drive-through is very, very short. If you're sticking a splash, could this be a mega strategy call for Rossi? Could it be a huge one that might throw him not into the mix of the race victory, but maybe not that far off of Kusenko, maybe grabbing that podium?
I don't know, maybe. I mean, well, you've got to remember they've made an extra stop compared to him, and everyone's, he's got 3 or 2 more stops to make, sorry. They've only got 1, so I think it's difficult to put him in that podium conversation. He might finish 5th, I think, ahead of D'Amico and Rokas DPi, who seem to be the only candidates for that. Sorry, it turned into. It will be 5th, I suppose, yeah. So maybe he can get a top 5 out of it, but I think he's going to struggle to finish on the podium here, Rossi. And by the way, I do think he will be in at the end of this lap. His first stint was 27 laps. He's just getting to the end of his 27th lap on this stint, too.
So that'll be a nice split. And if he does another 27. I wonder where that brings him out, as Felipe from the lead of your GT3s comes in, Vigneron as well. So that is a big change in GT3s as Rosen comes back, because Felipe underfueled, we believe, last time to have a slightly shorter stint. So Rosen is going to continue on, and now he's going to be on the lighter fuel. When Felipe comes out, he's going to be a lot heavier, so this might be Rosen's chance to get some of those 5 seconds back.
And there is Sebastiano Rossi into the pit lane then. So obviously dropping down the order, dropping back behind Gontieri. Obviously has that, had that drive-through penalty. We've seen a couple of those. Hopefully Rossi doesn't have one as well. And we'll see Rui Felipe as well through the lane. Klupar is the only one now in the DPIs yet to make a stop. And obviously it is Marvin Macabeg at the front of the field. Yuval Rosen leads in the GT3s. We've got 54 minutes left to go in this one, so still plenty of time. We're just going to have a little bit of a breather, literally like 30 or 40 seconds. Do not go anywhere, because this race, I'm feeling like it's going to have quite a conclusion. Just 53 minutes left to go then in the Daytona 2.4H here on RaceRoom, the first RaceRoom ranked event of 2024. It's of course Lewis McGlade, Cam Roger, Ewan O'Leary in the commentary booth, and Ewan, obviously we're waiting for the pit stops for the GT3s, but the DPIs have already come down for their penultimate one. It's just one more left to go for them. Sebastiano Rossi will leave pit lane.
Yeah, he comes out in 10th place, and that's why I think really, although he is on the mediums now, he's been able to extend his first and second stint enough to afford himself this slightly faster tyre towards the end of the race. You'd imagine he'll stay on this now for the final 52 minutes. I don't think he's going to be in that conversation for the podium, maybe not even the top 5. That's a very big gap for him to try and close in, unfortunately for him. There are plenty of other battles to go here, Cameron. The GT3 pit stop cycle, the final one, has already started. Rui Felipe is down to 10th now after his short fill in that opening stop.
But of course, we are still waiting for the cars ahead to come in, so I'm really interested to see what this gap is going to be to Rosen, because if he did underfuel in that middle stint, then that meant he obviously has to then put those litres in somewhere, and that was this time to the end of the race. So Rosen should save that back, and it might be quite close. As barrier, has he hit the barrier? Maybe somewhere out on the track. 8th position. I think he's kept his place though, but certainly further issues, as there's a huge gap between 7th and 8th place. There's 2 laps. Wow.
Yeah, just some of the issues that have fallen away of some of those a bit further down in the DPi category. There is a barrier, and whoa, that's a huge crash. Sebastiano Rossi sent straight into the barrier, and that right there, ladies and gentlemen, is why you do not try and do a move below the double yellow. That was crazy.
Yeah, absolutely mental. And Rossi, unfortunately, has paid the price. And, well, he was the one in the wrong, so you can't say it's unjustified, really. Unfortunately for Rossi, he was in that conversation for maybe a top 5, certainly not anymore. He was on probably the most interesting strategy of them all today, doing something a little bit different to everybody else. But that has all come to an end now, and as Lewis said, Cam, that's exactly why you don't overtake the double yellow line. You didn't do it anyway, and it applies to road racing as well. But that's the prime example. That video should be shown as an explanation as to why every time someone asks.
Yep, it's a double yellow for a reason, and we do not go below it under any circumstances. The only time is if you're getting a bit of a slipstream towards the line on the final lap, maybe, because that is a cheeky way of saving a couple of meters. But on normal racing situations, you just don't need to do it. It's so risky, and it causes these big accidents. So it's a big shame to see that, and especially as Ewan was mentioning, he was on such a cool strategy, so now we lose that, unfortunately, and we go back to a Mackenberg 1-2, Pasenko in behind, and Gontier trying to chase him down.
And of course, it is the race lead being held by Ewan Rosen in the GT3s at the moment. Obviously waiting for that pit stop from you. Cam, are you suggesting some rule-bending driving there with that? You can go. To be fair, it is the whole thing with Daytona. So you should never go below the double yellow, and it's the same thing of like if you're doing the Daytona 500, you always like lift a little bit until you come out of turn 4 on the last lap. At which point that throttle pedal's pinned, regardless of what happens, unless you're in real life. At which point, in sim racing, that throttle pedal is like a brick has been thrown onto it. Because it's like, yeah, you know what? If you get involved in a crash, just power through it because we're going for the checkered flag. It's a little bit like that on the endurance side, but yeah, less so. But even.
Oh no!
Oh, Marvin Mackenberg.
Oh no! What has happened to
Marvin Mackenberg? Oh, he has bitten.
The bus stop again.
How many cars?
What a race
5?
we've got.
Losing count of how many cars that have gone off at the bus stop now, but I think you'd struggle even on your fingers at this point. If you were counting at home, you'd certainly need pen and paper at this point because it's turning into a lot. And for whatever reason, Cam, as you referenced earlier, nobody seems to want to win.
They don't. Whether it's them trying to win or whether that is just the situation of that curb being so deadly. But the GT3 seem okay. I don't recall a GT3 incident there, but the DPIs, wow, they are really, really struggling today on that curb, and we've seen just how stiff the car must be. Yeah, I mean, you touch it and that's it. The car's gone straight away, and a drive-through penalty for Rossi to add insult to injury after going another lap down following those repairs. So it has been absolute chaos in this DPi category, and we still have another pit stop to go.
It's absolute chaos in this race, like you say. So for Marvin Mackenberg, the only thing we can hope there is that he didn't slap the barrier, which, to be fair, the gap has remained 1.6, 1.7 seconds. But I know it's only been a couple of corners, but the fact is, if that car was broken, he would have lost a lot of time a lot quicker. I can imagine the tyres probably aren't in a solid scenario, but I think it could be worse.
Yeah, absolutely. And he was around NASCAR turns 3 and 4 as well, which is totally flat out. So if he was damaged, he would have lost a lot of time immediately, even though he didn't have a very good run anyway, so he would have lost some time there. But we would have found out very quickly nevertheless. So I think we've still got a race on here, and I think you're right, I don't think Mackenberg hit the wall. By the way, I think Rossi will have got a speeding penalty because he well, he sped obviously, but the reason why,
no,
because he wasn't expecting to come into the pit lane on that lap. So if you think about it, he came to a stop before the line. He didn't speed in the crash. He will have accelerated to the pit lane, not having the speed limiter on, because he didn't think he was coming in the pit lane, and he might have just sped sort of accidentally as he goes in without the speed limiter on, because he wasn't expecting to go in at all.
I guess it's something that is almost unconscious sometimes, where you just see the speed limit line and you press it, but then when you've had a big crash like that, you're not thinking about anything else. You're just looking, where is my car going, what direction am I facing? So that's definitely understandable. But all these situations have led us to a very close battle to the front of DPi. The two Mackenbergs are within a second of each other, fighting towards the front. Psemko obviously is a bit closer now, as well as 15 seconds off. Gontier now 22 seconds off. Probably too much to catch the Mackenbergs, but definitely there's still open doors to have a nice fight in the final 45 minutes.
Yeah, we might well be able to see some Mackenberg on Mackenberg action. And I know normally they are quite good when it comes to fuel saving. We do typically see that in the endurance scene on RaceRoom here. They do tend to save their fuel quite well, but we'll have to wait and see on this occasion. And I'm sure they'll battle their way out. Again, this is to the point. I still can't remember which one of them I picked. I'm pretty sure it was Marvin, I'll be completely honest. But considering I can't remember, if either of them win, I'll take it. I'll take that as I've... Okay?
Got the second name right, I suppose.
Exactly.
That's not how it works.
Of the way, I'm sorry, but I'm most of the way right.
What was if there was 5 Mackenbergs? That doesn't make sense.
Say Mackenberg.
Everyone's bigger than
That's like saying, yeah, what car do you think will win? And then like it's a grid where there's a load of Team Redline cars. I mean, I know they had 1-2 yesterday in the DTM shootout. It'd be like saying, yeah, I think a red line's going to win. Yeah, it's exactly the same. Yeah, maybe they will, because one of them will.
Well, you're criticising it, but that's what you chose. So
exactly, that's what I'm doing. I am criticising it, but at the same time, I'm doubling down.
Okay. Well,
hypocrisy at its finest.
Pasemko is gaining places with every moment, it seems, right now, with people falling by the wayside because of crashes and stuff happening, like for Gontier and Filippo, for example. So he's starting to lurk into the equation. Hopefully there's a late charge from him. This is a very important pass for Rui Felipe. He gets down the inside of Christian Orban and now through into 8th position, which is fantastic news for the Portuguese driver, because he's one of those, Cam, where he's made his final pit stop. He can't afford to be held up by people now. He's got to be as fast as he can be for the remainder, so that Rosen makes his pit stop and he's right there in the conversation for the race win.
And it is working out. He's doing some very fast lap times, has that purple lap time to his name as well, but what he needs to do now is just absolutely go off into that gap that's up ahead. He's got about a 20-second gap up to Kovalevsky, and he needs to now pull away from Orban. He needs those clear laps to try and push up to or to try and pull away from Rosen as such as all. That's a huge oversteer moment there from Orban coming through T6, and that of course is going to help Felipe get away, but Rosen, this is a better part of the race now because he has the lighter car, but of course he then needs to come into the pit lane with a shorter stop. So what is going to be better, doing the shorter stop in the middle of the race or at the end?
Yeah, no, I don't know. I always like having a short stop at the end, because then, you get that little, I've beaten people right at the last stop. Whereas if you get it later on, you come like, where did they come from? I'd rather do it the other way around. I'd rather be the surprise. So that's something, I guess. I don't know. But either way, we'll have to wait and see how things are going to unfold. We're still waiting for that final stop in both categories, to be perfectly honest. I don't know. I find the GT3 is really hard to work out who's really where, like how things are really unfolding. Is Yuval Rosen this? Are we expecting some tyre strategy, some tyre swaps? Are they going to try and take these tyres basically all the way to the end of the race with 40 minutes left to go in the race? I would actually be surprised, knowing what we know about tyre wear within the GT3 category. I would be surprised if anyone pitting did change tyres.
Yeah, I would be too, but then again, I believe that Pfeiffer and Titz did change tyres at the first stop, didn't they? So they're a long way back at this point, and so far Pfeiffer really hasn't made an impression on the gap to Miskovic or Rosen at this stage, and the gap is still more than 30 seconds. I guess that kind of proves the point that changing tyres just isn't worth it in the GT3 category. You're not going to gain any time.
And that is a weird one, because we're doing a lot of laps on these tyres by the end of the race, but I guess if it's the faster strategy, it's the faster strategy. Mikovic there, a bit of a awkward moment, a bit of a slide on under the brakes there as he's trying to get to his car around. Currently sitting in that second place. Will it turn there in a second? We'll have to wait and find out where Felipe comes out in that battle. But yeah, it's definitely an interesting one that they can just go so long on these tyres still at a pretty decent pace, because you'd think after so long, surely you still lose a second a lap, and at that point it gets, when you're doing 30 laps a stint, it gets to a point where you're losing 30 seconds and you might as well change tyres.
Yeah, it all adds up, doesn't it? Especially around here where it's not like, say, a Bathurst, where it's like really hard to pass, where you kind of want to make sure that you're not getting stuck behind people potentially doing that strategy, so you might as well do it yourself. Because even if it's slightly slower, you see what I mean? Like, you're going to get caught in traffic. Whilst you can make passes at Bathurst, of course, it's much harder to do. Around here, basically pass what you want, really. You're not generally going to get held behind someone. So it is kind of one of the ones where it's, you look at what is the fastest strategy as an optimum on the timesheets and just do that. Don't think about like, what if I get caught in traffic, or what if this and what if that. Just don't worry about it. Rokas DPi came into pit lane, as did Sven Mackenberg for the final stop, and Gontier brings out the yellow flag for a slightly longer period. Guess where it is?
Ooh! And he's got no front end anymore either. So that's been a pretty heavy bit of contact. And I suppose you can pit now and go to the end, can't he? But the damage is kind of already done, and it's on your screen at the minute. He's wiggling around to see if there's any suspension damage. It actually seems as if it's driving okay, but there's just no front end to it, so he's going to have to rectify that.
Yeah, certainly is. And a driver who's already had some further previous issues in the race just adds another one to the list, and he certainly won't be winning the race or getting a podium after this. And fortunately, he can nicely get to the end of the race from here, so it's not like he's having to sort of do an awkward extra splash and dash because of it, if there's any positives to take. But yeah, he's going to be dropping way down. So it's really just a battle between the Mackenberg brothers, as has been for a little while. Sven's in the pit stop at the moment, and Marvin is continuing on for a little while. And then we'll be able to see where they're going to come out, because they're about a second apart. And if they stay that close to the end in the final sort of 5 minutes or so, that's going to be really exciting.
It's kind of like that. So, what we're seeing there, obviously, with Gontier, I wonder if with a lot of the drivers, it's not like, when we see your high-level racing elsewhere, where you're doing like full endurance racing, and you've got race engineers in your ear, and you're all doing this and you're all doing that. I kind of wonder, though, if you do have someone else in the race, or maybe someone's retired and you've got some mates that might have retired, I wonder if they've told you to stay off that bus. We've had a little bit of a look at some footage and stuff like from what we can say from some of the drivers, some of the likes of Filippo. That curb is lethal for the DPIs. Now, Gontier is the next one to be added to that list of drivers that have been bitten by that. I think we're up to like 5 or 6 that have at least been backwards or something of some description.
Yeah, I mean, I reckon it's probably more than that. But yeah, it's been very, very interesting to watch those guys go through there, and unfortunately a lot have come unstuck throughout. The interesting moment in GT3 now is kind of upon us here, because Yuval Rosen is into the pit lane. Rui Felipe is the first driver out on the circuit who has made 2 stops, and you'd presume made all of his stops remaining in this race. Pfeiffer and Ribeiro are going to have to go around, and they'll have to come in a bit later on. That's Pfeiffer putting a lap on Vlana, I'm going to presume, down in 16th position in the Audi. But where's Rosen going to come out here? Felipe a minute off the lead. Rosen still only 30 seconds off right now. He's got some time left to complete his service and get out ahead of the Portuguese driver in that McLaren.
I'm hoping it's going to be pretty close, to be honest. Felipe gained 5 seconds, so I would guess Rosen might get those 5 seconds back, and hopefully this is a side-by-side battle almost when we get to the end. And, Gontier still got no front end. He came into the pit lane, but it seemingly hasn't repaired.
Maybe he has repaired, and it's I think he has repaired, because I don't think you'd be going that quick without. I think it's more just like so a connection. Don't worry about it. Don't whiz was, because I think we have had that before, like when it came to like it might have been the Cooper Sim Racing Series. I remember seeing like quite a lot of cars with damage, like a huge dent in the front end. They were like, no, it's just don't worry about it. And I was like, so I think it's
Rokas to B's off there at the same corner as well at the bus stop chicane. So we'll see if he's got any damage, but I'm pretty sure it was him off at the bus stop chicane to bring out that yellow flag a couple of moments ago, and it doesn't seem that that curve's getting any easier to deal with. That whole section, indeed.
And back to the GT3s, Rosen has come out, and he's an absolute age ahead of Felipe. 30 seconds. That is incredible. I mean, I would have, if it was 10 seconds, I would have understood, but 30 seconds? There's surely got to be some tyre situations going on there as well.
Do you know what it is, Cam? I picked into the RaceRoom.
Potentially, because Lulu is always right.
Oh, Marvin.
No.
Speaking of people I picked for the RaceRoom, that is a lot more damage this time. So he didn't get the note to keep it off that curb, I don't believe. That is a lot more damage on Marvin Mackenberg's car, and his chances of taking victory in the Daytona 2.4H, I think, have gone up with that one. I mean, it seems like the same car that we saw from Rokas to be earlier on, but I wonder if we'll see this car straight into pit lane. No, so he's clearly thinking that the car's okay enough to soldier on, but there's another one to add to the list. So I can't take any major plaudits from the DPi category unless Sven Mackenberg wins, at which point. Who did you pick?
Me, I picked Pasemko for DPi. And he'll be second very soon when Mackenberg pits. I picked Pfeiffer in GT3, and it looks like it's going okay, but he's actually a lot further back than than that at the moment. He's not really second place, I don't think. I think everybody's going to be a long way behind Rosen when this all shakes out.
Yeah, Rosen has done an absolute blinder. And even though the graphic says it hasn't made that 3 pit stops, for some reason it added an extra number to that. He's only done the 2, like he should have. Felipe was his closest competitor, but or is that tower just not updated? No, it is. So it really is that big. I just can't believe that it's that big. So I do think, as you said, it might be an extra tyre for Felipe, taking some extra time. Something along those lines, but it's not the strategy that's going to win him this race. He managed to get himself in that position, but wasn't able to hold on to his Vertrick round the outside of Vigneron. Takes 13th place.
Yeah, who did you pick, Cam, by the way, for race victory? Because you didn't answer that one. I heard you skirt around that one.
No, I did it. I said Enzo Filipao, easy win, easy
nice,
dub.
Good effort. Right, next.
And then I also said Piper for GC3.
Okay, cool. I just want to make sure that I'm right. I've picked the one with the absolute
Make sure you're
whopper.
right.
Yeah, exactly. The absolute whopper at the moment, that is you for Rosen. Huge gap, like you say. I can't believe that big, because based on what we saw earlier on in the race, with when the stops were made, kind of lost an awful lot, or let's say lost an awful lot, lost a fair amount compared to Felipe on that first stop, and we were kind of wondering why, as to what that might have been. I think we've now got the answer, as we'll see Pasemko onto the pit lane. D'Amico, who's had quite a few spins at the moment, I believe he's on the hard tyres, starting on the medium tyres, he's now on the hard tyres. Still, there we go. He's good, isn't it?
Is that the case? I guess.
He is on the hard tyres now. He definitely started on the mediums, because I remember pointing them out, because he was the only one of the top 6 in the medium. You doubt it?
Okay. Well, no, I'm just I'm lost on tyres now. It's been nearly 2 hours of this race. I can't remember who did what when at this point.
Sorry, Mr. Ivor. I jumped on the broadcast half hour after the other two. And we were saying hard shit.
Half an hour after the other two would have been a luxury. I didn't do 2, by the way, but anyway, whatever. Okay. Pasemko will come out, I'd imagine, behind Mackenberg, but still waiting to see when he's going to exit here. Unfortunately, I don't think my prediction's going to come true, and there's the change. Mackenberg goes through, and I think Pasemko's actually only just left his box, so it's going to take, that's going to be quite some gap, and not really closable in half an hour.
Yeah, that's too much. If it was 5-10 seconds, maybe, but not any more than that. And Marchena actually goes through as well. So definitely a tough task there. Sven Mackenberg looking very nice for this victory, but you never know what is going to happen as Marvin Mackenberg comes down pit road. D'Amico also still out there, owing us a pit stop. So it's been all over the place in this category, and we're still yet to find out as he has slowly but surely reached 30 minutes to go in this race. So Mackenberg is going to have about 2/3 of a tank, so he'll save a little bit of time with that compared to his teammate. But of course, with that spin, that sort of eradicates any time that he would have gained.
Mackenberg onto the pit lane. Unfortunately, Marvin Mackenberg is going to have a lot of damage repair. That's the problem. Obviously, that car was pretty broken. Speaking of broken cars, yeah, maybe Guantier's car does have that actual damage on it, because it's certainly lacking the front end and any grip to go with it, which is crazy. Like that's just why if you come into the pit lane, maybe took one look at the damage repair and was like, absolutely not. I'm just going to struggle with this, because clearly the car's not ridiculously slow. It is slow, but you know what, you're going to drop back to 9th place, whereas if you do the damage repair, you might drop back to the rear field.
Yeah, and as I said at the time, I think it does drive straight. I think that was immediately apparent. He gave the car a little wiggle immediately after the contact with the wall, and I felt immediately at that point he was confident that it at least drives straight. That's the most infuriating thing I've found when getting damage is if it, your right hand or left hand down, it's just annoying. So aero damage, you might think, well, I can deal with it, but also the amount of understeer he'll have is pretty annoying too. This is something we haven't seen all day. That was side by side through the bus stop chicane, but everybody makes it out the other side okay.
Yeah, Mish and Kluper taking some risk at that part of the track, and certainly making it work. We've seen drivers crashing on their own there, so going side by side is definitely much of a risk as Kuhl comes into the pit lane. Look at the absolute run, though, across the triover. It's going to be Mish on the inside in the white machine, Kugler on the outside trying to get past, and of course they have a lapped car coming back through them as well, as that is completely missing the corner, as I think Mish also half making a mistake, half trying to let that red machine go through, and now Cooper gets back into 11th.
Yeah, indeed. Sorry, who's that? Matej Nikovic then leading in the GT3s, but again, we're still awaiting those pits. We've got half an hour left to go in this race, and we're still waiting for those last moments. But this race has calmed down a little bit, and to be perfectly honest, we're at the point where the only thing that I'm like majorly expecting to happen is absolutely someone else is going to bin it in the bus stop. It's just who is it going to be?
They certainly are with that attitude.
Well, I mean, come on, let's be real. Percentage-wise, we're not getting the DQs that I was predicting, but we are going to get the crashes.
Yeah, I think so. There's still time for the DQs as well, by the way, with 30 minutes to go. But it's not looking likely at this stage that we're going to get 4, I will say. But anyway, never mind. Who's that making it out the pit lane? I think Rokas to be just going out in 9th place. That should be round where he is to finish. However, we've still got some time left here and some pit stops to make for the likes of Luca D'Amico, who is actually leading, by the way, just kind of gone under our noses, and Marchena as well, who's inside the top 5. But there goes Barrier around the outside to hold on to 7th place in the field. It has certainly calmed down, but still half an hour to go. Still positions to be settled, even if we don't think the real leading positions are still yet to be settled. I guess DPi is still a conversation there.
Yeah, D'Amico, I mean, we're on to lap 70 now, and he's still out there. So, yeah, definitely an interesting strategy. But back to the Mackenberg brothers. Marvin is leading Sven, but Sven is on those medium tyres, and of course, Senko's nowhere near close enough. So there's a battle between those two until the end. Now, as this all worked out, Mackenberg, of course, need to use their first names. Marvin is leading the way from Sven, despite the issues. But is he going to be able to not spin for a 3rd time and on the slower tyres hold on?
I think we shouldn't use their first names. We just need to let them guess from context. That Mackenberg is leading in this group, with Mackenberg behind trying to close back up. But we'll just play it like that from now on. I think the more important bit is how has Marvin Mackenberg gone into the barrier at the last stop, got a really damaged car, come through the pit lane, repaired the car, got back out of the track, and still has the position over Sven. I think that's because Sven Mackenberg had a slower stop courtesy of the having a tyre change, which means as much as I think Marvin Mackenberg is on the hard tyres, I think he's on old hard tyres as well. That's the important bit. But yeah, I don't know.
That doesn't explain how Sven Mackenberg that is.
No, it's going to go with Mackenberg.
Oh no, I suppose Pasemko would have changed tyres as well, so that does make sense actually. Because I was wondering why he's 20 seconds behind, but if they've both changed tyres, then the gap would stay the same. So that seems to be fine. It's just a very tall order now for Marvin Mackenberg to hang on here, really, isn't it? 26 minutes to go. He's been in the wall with his car twice in the last 20 minutes. He's on older tyres compared to newer, softer tyres of Sven, and there's way too long in this race for him remaining, surely, for him to hang on.
Yeah, it looks like Sven has the pace, and this might be the opportunity that he needed. Look at the run that he's got coming through NASCAR 4. And that is going to be an easy lead down in towards turn 1, surely, if he's got the overspeed to hold it. But actually, no, on the inside line, Marvin is trying his best. But when we got to the braking zone, the two brothers go side by side, and Marvin manages to hold on, but he goes too deep, and Sven goes through. He takes the ultimate race lead. Of course, D'Amico still owing us a pit stop, and that should be Sven. And with a nice, easy finish, 25 minutes on the softer tyres, he should be able to hold on.
Yeah, and like I say, I don't believe Marvin Mackenberg will be able to let alone keep up. Definitely won't be able to get back through, won't be able to get back involved in this fight. Back down to the GT3 category then. Top 3 yet to stop. Matej Nikovic, of course, Ian Piper and Mariusz Zabdir. But Zabdir's feeling the pressure, at least for a position to I don't feel Zabdir's going to waste too much time with this with Rosen coming through, especially considering being about 2 hours now into the race. We are still expecting the likes of Zabdir, Piper and Nikovic to come in the pit lane. We don't believe they can do it on a one-stop. and there we have, flying their way straight back through, was I was a bit confused by the flashing of the lights there from Marius Sander. I thought we were going to send it again.
I don't know what that was all about, really, or even what those flashes of the lights could mean, because there are many things. He's not giving it a big dive down the inside here. Oh, wow, that was close. He hit the back of Rosen there as the Ferrari just got a bit deep into the corner, pulled back for the apex, or at least tried to, and Zabdi got straight into the back of him. That was, well, it could have been a lot worse, and it could have been a pretty embarrassing and slightly awkward moment for the two of them, especially Zabdi getting involved in a battle he really didn't need to be involved in, but it's fine. Rosen still holds the position, holds his car on the road, and holds a very large advantage in this race.
Yes, D'Amico comes in from the race lead, so Sven Mackenberg gets that race lead as he won just a few laps ago, as Marvin Mackenberg down into second place. Some yellow flags come out, some more pit stops come in. Mikovic from that first place will come in for his next round of pit stops, so he isn't going to do that one stop like we were just mentioning, but he's going to have a very, very short pit stop, so let's see where he comes out. Of course, Felipe might actually be in target with the slow pit stop that he had.
It's where it's interesting to kind of work out to how this is going to play. Gaspar Mish, I believe, is next without an issue, or maybe you could call it a mishu. There he is, it's round at the bus stop. I'm so sorry, but he will rejoin the race circuit in 12th. We had to cut away though because there was a great battle there with Pasemko and Marchena because they decided to do everything at the same time. Marchena is dropping down behind Pasemko as more pit stops come in, this time from Marius Zabdi and Matej Mikovic. Didn't like my Gaspar Mish pun there. No?
No, not really.
I thought I was really good actually. I thought I was better than he's just missed the corner.
Well, yeah, I was trying to really think of a smart. There wasn't especially a smart way to do that, really, that time. But, his name is just endless fun, isn't it? Really,
it's so bad. I feel so bad for him.
It also makes me realise how sad we are because we're just having so much fun with someone's name. But anyway, that's fine. Marchena then passed for third place, and it looks like Pasemko is going to hang on to that to the end now too. In fact, the top three have all made their final pit stops. I guess the next question we've got there is, can Pasemko catch Marvin Mackenberg with 15 seconds ahead and 22 minutes left?
Bit of the old quick maths. Yeah, he's going to need something like 3/4 of a second a minute, is it right? Something along those lines. So it's about a second a lap, maybe a little bit more in total. So might be a little bit too much. It's Kovalevsky speeding in the pit lane. You'll have to go back through and do a drive-through penalty down in 9th place in your GT3s, and my car's not too far behind as well, so probably lose a couple of places from that one. As it's certainly been a very tricky race. Lots of spins, lots of penalties. No DQs, as Lewis was mentioning, we might get earlier, but we'll have to wait and see. There's still time.
To be fair, if they could use that curb going through the bus, I'm pretty sure we'd see a lot more, mostly based on track limit excursions. 4 retirements for the race, which actually is surprisingly low. Lurkin, Coughlin, Weitzel, and of course Enzo Filipao from the race lead in the DPi category far earlier on. Only one driver in pit lane at the moment, which is Arthur Gra, obviously dropping back down the order, and courtesy of that one making the final stop again. Drive-through penalties, Kovalevsky picking one up quite late. I wonder, it's kind of one of those ones when you come in, when you commit so hard for that final stop, sometimes you kind of wonder how much do you need to do to push that hard. And the answer is you don't push that hard going into the last stop. Probably not going to make much of a difference. Meanwhile, coming in for a drive-through will at least drop you behind Tits.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's worth bearing that in mind. Some of these things hard to comprehend or fully understand when you're in the heat of battle like these guys. But even so, we're probably at that stage now. Final 20 minutes. As we referenced earlier on, just bringing it home to the end of the race. Probably a good idea or a good achievement at the moment, really. Given what we've seen so far today. Now Jacek Kovalevsky is off the road somewhere. Oh no, he's in the pit lane. That's embarrassing for me. So he's going to drop down from 9th place. Unfortunately, he's been a little bit further away than maybe you'd expect to see him so far today, really. you normally expect and see good drives from Kovalevsky, but we've not seen a lot of him today.
It's tough out there, and especially in the 2.4 hours, as we mentioned earlier, when you're doing it on your own. Pfeiffer from the lead of GT3s comes in for his second and hopefully final pit stop. But it's difficult when you're on your own, and the slight mistakes really, they really make a big factor. And for some reason, in a 24-hour race, if you do even a 4-hour stint, sometimes it actually feels easier than one of these 2.4s on your own. I don't know how to explain it, but when you get into that vibe of a really long race, the stints just go past because you know the race is so long. Whereas here, when you know it's that 2.4, you're always thinking of the finish, and it does feel just that little bit long enough for you to start making some mistakes and things like that. And it's certainly been an incident-filled race as we go to the lead of GT3s. Rosen has retaken that, of course. Miles ahead of Felipe. It's taken a long time, but look, it's actually not too far behind. Mikovic is only 5-6 seconds behind.
So maybe we'll have a battle for the race in 6 seconds, though, in the next 18 minutes. Yeah, I don't see it. I do not. I don't see it. I don't see it. I see the potential. I see maybe a little cheeky bit of the DPi's coming through, chucking the cat amongst the pigeons. But realistically speaking, I don't see it. This is where the battle really is, though, between Pfeiffer and between Rui Felipe. With a look down the inside going into the dogleg. This is the battle for third position in the GT3s. Little brush between the pair of them, and it will be Pfeiffer hanging on.
It's a good move around the outside, actually, to hang on there, and this is going to go to the line. Sceptical about the one for the race lead in GT3, has to be said, but not for third. Unfortunately, Sebastiano Rossi will be finishing down in 13th in DPi, I would imagine, and in fact he won't even get to the end of the race. He's another victim of the bus stop chicane.
It's about his third or fourth crash in that corner. He's certainly had a few mistakes, and he's shown some great speed. He was up in, I think he was even in the top 5 on pace at one point, but was unable to keep that going throughout the race. And it's certainly been a very attritional one, difficult for these drivers. And I mean, sometimes that's what you like to see, the difficult races and not just an easy standard race. Orban and Riedel come into the pit lane in your GT3, so that's pretty much, that's the last of the GT3 pit stops. Everyone's on the 2 stops now to the end of the race, so 17 minutes to go. So they would have had to do a lot longer, 9 minutes, probably about 5 laps extra on those tires if they wanted to one stop.
Yeah, indeed. Well, we'll have to wait and see whether these switches are going to come, because now Rui Felipe is going to get to the outside. Doesn't seem to have the straight line speeds to battle his McLaren 720 past that Porsche at the moment. We'll have to be committed onto the brakes, might switch up and try and get down the inside into the first corner, but decides against it. Maybe the International Horseshoe got to be a big dive again. The time is ticking down, 16 minutes left to go. There's still plenty of time for that move. I say every corner that goes by, it's an opportunity that you're thinking, I could have ticked that one off. Although to be fair, I think these two aren't realistically that different when it comes to pace, to the point where I think if Rui Felipe was able to get through, I think Pfeiffer would be able to battle with him.
Oh, exactly, and where do the games begin with regards to that and the final lap? Because Daytona is traditionally a slipstream circuit. We haven't spoken about that much so far, not for about 2 hours in fact, because the traffic sort of splits that apart. The length of the race ruins and plays with that a little bit. However, we are at that stage in the race again. We do have some battles like this being for the highest position of those battles, of course, especially in GT3. And so now we start to worry and wonder, are they going to start jockeying for second position on the final lap? Do they want to lead onto the final lap? That's the next question for these guys to figure out.
In the support race earlier in the TCRs, we didn't see a pass to the line. The leader was able to hold on. But I do think that it's because they were too close, as Marchena, 4th place in your DPIs. He's had some sort of issue coming through the tri-oval. That's a bit of a weird one. Surely there was contact there from another car. But back to Felipe. Let's have a bit of a look. Look how far back he is, and look at the slingshot effect that he's going to get.
Yeah, but then let's see this bit when he gets to, he's going to look for us, and then we had Gontier closing in and thought, actually, I'd best not do that this time. I don't know. I think as soon as he pulls out the slipstream, I just think that Porsche is actually a little bit faster in a straight line. So, yeah, I don't know really, as to whether there is going to be the straight line speed in that McLaren. And the reason why I say it is, I'd kind of but before watching the TCRs, I would have said I wanted to be second, and I did say I wanted TCRs. I wanted to be second. Whereas now, no, do you know what? Especially with these, I'd rather be the leader of this battle. I think Rui Felipe is trying to be the leader of this battle. Maybe trying to use some serious pace advantage that he's got. Looking to the inside, going through the dog leg. That might be a bit of a scent coming into the West Horseshoe.
But based on the straight line speed that you referenced, as Felipe does go for the outside here, but he gets it wrong. Hopefully he doesn't go into the grass entirely, but he has lost quite a bit of time there. And based on the straight line speed that we've seen from the Porsche so far, compared to the McLaren, is this sort of an unwinnable battle at the moment for Rui Felipe, or is there not an obvious way to win this battle? Because if he's second onto the final lap, he's not going to draft past the Porsche to the line. If he's first, then he is going to be passed by the Porsche to the line, if indeed that is as quick as we think it is. So it seems somewhat unwinnable for Rui Felipe.
Yeah, I think he needs to get past earlier rather than later, try and pull away if he can, as we see some side-by-side battles with Orban in the green machine. Up the inside is going to be Kovalevsky in the red and white car, and he gets through in towards that 10th place, and Vigneron is only just up the road in that Mercedes, so there's still potentially another place to go, and Vertrick actually not too far up the road either if there's some pace in that Kovalevsky machine. Of course, he just had an initial pit stop not too long ago, which has dropped him further back, but certainly going to be an interesting one. Let's see for Felipe though, can he finally get past Pfeiffer?
Yeah, this is what I mean, like coming up towards the line now, if you wait to the last lap, position ain't switching, it will still be Pfeiffer, so you need to find a way past. Marchena, by the way, into the pit lane for their final stop in the DPIs. I believe that's why there was they were slow on the start-finish. Maybe had gone for a spin on pit entry and then didn't want to come down over the grass or something. I don't know, something in that vein, and just decided actually I'm going to go for one more lap and I'll pit next one. Maybe that is why. But either way, this battle for third is enthralling. Just a very tactical one. I think it's a very frustrating one for Rui Felipe. I always find this when I've got a car that's slower in a straight line than the car ahead, I hate it. It's so stressful.
Frustrating was the word I was going to use in terms of Rui Felipe's situation here. Very annoying to be sat behind someone you think you're quicker than, and not only that, but also one that you're struggling to get past on the straights. And it's not a case of, you know, I'm better than you or whatever. It's a case of this car is better than yours at this point, but I can't get through when I need to. Now you can see the problem he's got. Out of turn 6, he's almost too close to Pfeiffer. He's going to have a look at the bus stop here, but surely this is going to be no use. He needs to, at the very least, set him on the wrong line here. Stay alongside to the braking zone here, Felipe. Send Pfeiffer in on a narrow line, take a wider one in, and get a better exit on the way out. Again, he's not really done that, I'm afraid. He's got it slightly wrong on the exit.
I think he's lost a bit of time there. Although I do bring the point to you that why didn't he just choose the Porsche then? Because some would argue maybe he's faster through the corners because the McLaren's better in the corners. You never know. But I do think he's on a better tyre situation at this moment in time. But maybe Pfeiffer, Mikovic, they chose the Porsche because they knew the top speed was going to be important around this lap as Felipe gets closer. Once again, it's not going to be close enough to overtake this time around. But as Ewan's mentioning, he needs to get him offline. He needs to get Pfeiffer having a slower exit.
Yeah, that's a big snap of oversteer from Pfeiffer. This could be, whoa, they are both all over the place, almost turning it into the rallycross layout here at Daytona. As we'll see once again the hold from Pfeiffer. I mean, yeah, to your point, Cam. Yes, you could have picked the car with a fast straight line speed, and I was saying this before we went live as well, especially when it came to the TCR race, the sport race. I would look at which cars were the ones that were drivable. You know, let's say, for example, I was like, right, the Ferrari, the Porsche, the Audi, and the McLaren. Those are the ones that I quite like how they felt. Whichever one, even if it's like a couple of tenths slower a lap, whichever one's the fastest in a straight line, I'm taking that one because it's the one that's going to give you the most options during the race. And I would do that the same, you know, I said with the GT3s, as I would do with the TCRs, around here. But at the same time, yeah, who has the time to practice in every single car? If you're just used to driving one car, you're just going to stick with that. It doesn't mean it's not going to be frustrating at this point in the race as we revisit my pick for the race win. Right?
I mean, nobody knows if you actually did pick the Sol or not.
He's changed his mind too many times.
I'm absolutely sure I picked Marvel, but I'm committed.
I think your changing of mind makes your choices void now. So
both of them. The Evil Rose has got nothing wrong with that choice.
well, all right, I'll give you that one. Yeah, but you're not having both. That's not possible. It is increasingly looking like Timon Mackenberg is going to take this one. Just under 10 minutes to go in the race now. I don't know how many laps that means is remaining. Maybe 6 or 7 actually. Still a fair amount of time, and he's got a fair amount of traffic still to deal with. Still at 17 GT3s running on the field, and this is the most awkward of them. The battle for third place continuing on again. Pfeiffer still ahead of Felipe, making things awkward for the overall race leader.
Felipe was as close as he's ever been, but this is very tight on the outside line there. Just maybe slightly slowing up Pfeiffer enough, but is it any opening door for Felipe to dive it down the inside in towards the Western Horseshoe? It really opens up, but Pfeiffer holds it to that inside line. Is that going to push him offline when we get to the exit up towards turn 6? This could be an important corner. Felipe needs to stay close. He often loses a little bit on the exits of the corners. He goes to the right-hand side to try and open up. He goes later on the brakes, but is this going to be enough to get the run down towards the chicane?
Indeed. This is... as I say, it's just tough about even if you've got a good run here going down the chicane, you don't want to make that move with the chicane, because I can guarantee that Porsche will be straight back through going down to T1. Now this going to the high side is so that really Felipe can drop back in line and maybe carry some of the speed through without having to lift. So is intending to stay behind. Now actually getting Pfeiffer onto the wrong line going into the Le Mans chicane, into the bus stop. You see what the drive's like off the corner. Pretty even from the pair of them, so the slip is going to work out an advantage of that McLaren. But once again, there is not going to be a move, not unless there's a bit of bravery down into T1.
Well, there could be. I mean, he's got to try something here. Clearly what he's been doing so far has not worked, and he's got to go for something. Maybe this is a dry run for the end of the race. He's alongside, but as soon as he gets into the air on his own, he can't go anywhere, so he can't trust dragging past the Porsche on the last lap. He's got to go for something before then. He's got to get a little bit inventive, if anything, to try and make that happen. Now there's the awkwardness of some DPIs getting involved here, and that has really set Felipe back, because Pfeiffer very cleverly defends the inside line from the DPIs, making them go around the outside, whereas Felipe sort of had to accommodate them, as it were. So Pfeiffer dealt with that traffic very well and gains time as a result.
Yeah, I think Felipe has done the wrong strategy over the course of the race. He lost the track position at the crucial time. He got track position in the lead in that second stint, but that's not when it mattered. When it mattered was now. And unfortunately, if there was a big gap between him and Rosen, he might have been okay, but there's 2 cars in the way, and he hasn't even been able to get past the first one, let alone even having a excuse me, I think about getting up towards Mikovic in second place. So it's been a very, very difficult race for him, and maybe something to reflect on. But let's see once more in the slipstream. See, this is where he needs to be. He needs to be this far back to really get the overspeed. But once more, the traffic comes at a terrible time. He goes to the right-hand side, and this might be a perfect opportunity if he wants to send it around the outside. This has got to be it. One and done. One opportunity, but maybe not. He has to back out of it.
Yeah, no way you're hanging it around the outside there. That would have been a very silly thing to have tried. It would have been a great move if he pulled it off. But what he has done, though, is he has slowed Pfeiffer down on the run. But the thing is, again, that Porsche, the straight line speed, once we get onto that front stretch, we've seen it time and time again, Rui Felipe will pull out of the slipstream and then the Porsche just keeps accelerating, whereas the McLaren stops accelerating. That's exactly what's going to happen here. Pulls out of the slipstream, gets into the clean air, has to drop straight back in. Lights are flashing to one of the drivers ahead because they are going a lap down on this grouping. That'll be Ole Janssen, the Swede, a bit further down the order in that BMW, the lone BMW M4 on the grid. Thank goodness, it's still ugly. And let's see if this time there might be a move going into the International Horseshoe. Just perfectly defended from Pfeiffer. And every time you see Rui Felipe trying to get around the outside, I get a feeling he might be trying to make it like, this might sound a little bit weird, might be trying to make it a little bit too pretty. Like, yeah, not simple enough. Because, yeah, sure, the inside line's covered, but it's trying to go all the way around the outside.
I mean,
no, it's fine.
That was not the line. That last lap, that was certainly not it. What you need to do, really, if you're going to go for the cutback, as he tries to look up the inside 6 but can't do it, you need to brake a bit later than he did there, get a later apex and try and just get this speed, sort of the run out, the traction out and the run through into the kink. Even then you're probably on the outside. You into the kink, and that's not really going to lead you anywhere. Maybe you can hang around there and get the inside for the West Horseshoe, but it's looking pretty bleak for him now. He's still got 5 minutes to do this, though. He stays alongside, but no, he can't even do that. Piper will get the nice line into the bus stop chicane. He won't get the assistance of the DPIs that are behind as well, because they'll blast past on the banking.
Obviously, we've been mentioning this in some ways. It's a little bit to do with what Felipe is doing in terms of maybe not putting his car in the absolute perfect place. But this is also because Piper, he is doing what he needs to do. He's braking, he's accelerating at the right times. But now to the outside, the McLaren goes, and once more he hits that wall of air on that outside line. But what he needs to do is to try and get just a little bit Piper off the line. But look at the flashing of the lights as well. Piper can see that car up ahead of Janssen, and that's going to get tricky in towards turn one. They go, and this is going to give Felipe the opportunity into the hairpin.
So dicey all this. I said this lap traffic is the bit that might actually make something stick in all of this, but they're both going to be able to navigate Janssen nicely. Might have been the opportunity that Rui Felipe needed, but once again they still depart the corner fairly slow. Well, so I was going to say the same. Rui Felipe slower than what he would want it if he was going to make a move going down into the West Horseshoe. I mean, they've been like this for 10 minutes. We were saying, like, with 16 minutes left to go in this race, every opportunity Rui Felipe has, he needs to kind of make the most of one early. Now, he doesn't have many opportunities left to go in this race.
That was close as well, I thought, through turn 6, but you're right, there really aren't many chances left in this one as Sven Mackenberg comes over the line. I reckon there's still 3 to go here. I reckon there could be quite a lot of time remaining in this race in terms of laps. Mackenberg's going to cross the line with seconds remaining. He's going to make everyone do one more, which is probably what Rui Felipe really wants here. He looks to the outside again. Can he get alongside for this bus stop? He has compromised the Porsche, so first part complete, but every time we've seen him do this, he's gotten absolutely nowhere as a result. And with every time that he does this, Piper is getting better and better at going through that bus stop chicane on the narrow line.
And he's, as you say, just picking up the experience with that. So now should be a bit more confident with where he can brake, and it's working out well. Felipe is miles behind, but he's going to get the huge slingshot run through the trial. Is it going to be enough for him to get the run around the outside? The issue is the outside is so difficult on the braking zone. Piper's just going to hold it down towards the apron, hold it on the inside line, brake as late as he can. But look at Felipe on the outside line. He's trying, he's thinking, he's trying to do something. He's risking it, but that is not the place to overtake as Piper just covers that one off.
Good go though, really good attempt. Let's see if there's going to be a move to the inside here. Once again, it's covered off. I kind of get the feeling he actually needs to wait for Piper to go back over, because see how Piper, going into the international horseshoe, covers him back off going over to the left-hand side. I think he needs to wait for Piper to move back over to the left-hand side. Just send one straight on the inside. Steam it. Well, he's going to try it here going through the dogleg, which is going to leave the outside of the West Horseshoe, which ain't going to work. But might well try and sweep his way back to the inside. They've got a bit of traffic behind them as well, trying to work their way past. But once again, the frustration is building for the Portuguese driver. Will have to focus. I think he's focused more ahead than he is behind. Now drives straight into the rear end of the Porsche.
Oh, now he's getting desperate. You can see the contact is being made, and I think if that lap traffic wasn't there, he might have made a bit more of that, but unfortunately it was, and he couldn't. So here we go with Mackenberg and Pasemko. It's all happening for the podium places at the end. Marvin Mackenberg on the inside on the older, harder tyres versus Pasemko trying to come through the field. And, well, he's trying to win here, but he's not going to. Hit 15 seconds away. He's only got a couple of laps to take second away.
Oh, and he's looking down the inside there. Mackenberg does miss the apex, and up the inside is going to be for Pasemko. He's got the grip. No, he doesn't. He wheel spins on the exit and has to back out of that one, but Mackenberg still has that place. We're inside the final minute. It's going to be very close to the line. If there's one more lap, this might be the final opportunity for Pasemko to try and get this overtake, but I think Mackenberg is just an open door waiting to happen for Pasemko. He's really struggling on the tyres.
Yeah, indeed. Tight battle here. Havana, by the way, comes into the pit lane on the last, what the yellow flag was. And race leader Sven Mackenberg is coming down into the Le Mans chicane with 30 seconds left to go on the clock. Leary thinks there's definitely going to be another lap. But I actually think that Sven Mackenberg is slowing down. I think he is wanting this to be the last lap of the race. I don't think he wants to go for one more. I think Chris, our broadcast director, has got some big brain strategy happening here. And with 10 seconds left to go, it does seem as though it might well be the final opportunities for anyone to make any move. Will it be a Mackenberg 1-2, or will Pasemko find his way past? We'll have to wait and see, as out onto the tri-oval, slowing down to an absolute crawl goes Sven Mackenberg to take victory here at Daytona. And here comes the drag race, Ewan.
Here we go, second place between Mackenberg and Pasemko, and he just can't do it. It's going to be a Mackenberg 1-2 with Pasemko falling short at the end. Just couldn't quite draft past, and that has been the story of what we've seen in these battles so far. We'll see what else happens in GT3.
It's going to be a decent win there for Rosen in the end by 4 seconds. I wouldn't say dominant, but he did enough. He did the strategy at the perfect time, the shortest stints at the end, and he takes victory in your GT3 category. Mikovic, though, he worked his way up slowly, takes second place in the end, and he should be very, very happy with that after all the issues that we saw further down. But who was going to get third?
Indeed, here we go with the drag race. Now, we've seen Rui Felipe try time and time again, but I just don't believe that 720 has the straight line speed unless it's packing an absolute shocker here. We come off of NASCAR 4, pulls it out of the slipstream, out into that clean air, and it is far too thick around here, and it will be Piper taking third place. Rui Felipe has to settle for third, as we'll have to wait and see the rest of the drivers cross the line. Enthralling battle there, though, and a great victory for both Sven Mackenberg and Yuval Rosen. And a great podium there for Piper, having worked his way through and held on to it on the final moments. It is a Mackenberg 1-2, Sven ahead of Marvin, with Pasemko, Ewan's choice, in third spot. Just to clarify, yep, Ewan's choice was behind mine. Cool. D'Amico did a great job, actually, to run sort of under the radar for most of the race in fourth place. Gontier was leading at one point, and then had an unfortunate incident in the pit lane by speeding, and then an unfortunate incident through the bus stop, like everyone else. Marchena in sixth position with Rokas DPi. Barriere, obviously a lap down, same with Kuhl. Gaspar Misch also finished a couple of laps down, but still inside the top 10 as we get ready to see the final positions inside the DPi category. Gilbert, Cooper, and of course Rossi. But the big shame, Enzo Filipao, dominant lead, and then a big crash, retirement from the race. Still set the fastest lap of the race, that's how quick he was. Yuval Rosen took victory in the GT3 category with Mate Mikovic and Pfeiffer behind in third, with Felipe and Zabdir inside the top 5. Ribeiro in sixth position in that Audi R8 with Titz and then Vuthrik. Vigneron, Kovalevsky, late drive-through penalty for him. I think we'll be thinking, was it really worth it? Definitely cost him a couple of positions. Orban there in 11th position, just outside the top 10. All these drivers finishing a lap down. Rydell, Janssen, Gra, Rebello, and Hlavana with a late entry into the pit lane, dropping down to 16th position in those GT3s. The final ones being Rose, finishing 2 laps down in retirements for Rachel, for Coughlin, and for Lucan-Ewan. But actually, it's a fun race. A lot of incidentes in that one.
Yeah, there was a lot going on, but that's exactly what we want. It was very good to watch. A lot going on at the bus stop chicane, among other places, but plenty of battles as well, plenty of stuff to look back on and you know, admire, because it was great racing over the course of it, Cam. I mean, we've done this 3 years in a row now, I think, and I can't remember one quite as chaotic as that.
Yeah, that was quite something. I did mention halfway through the race, I thought no one wanted to win. But in the end, I think it was 2 very worthy winners, and just showing you how difficult a race around Daytona is. It might look easy on the track map, but it's not easy on the actual track itself.
No, but it was a lot of fun. We hope that you all had fun whilst watching, and hope all our drivers did as well, because of course we weren't just racing in the single split. I think we had 8 splits in total here, where you know, plenty of racing, and then we had a couple for the support series as well. Lots of enjoyment in all of that, and lots of enjoyment in this race as well. And of course, we know that when it comes to RaceRoom ranked events, there will be plenty throughout the year. Plenty with also terrible commentary. Get Ewan out of the booth. He doesn't deserve his own tag. Get him gone. Just Lewis McGlade and Cameron Rogers. I'm sorry, Chris. Of course, we've had a lot of fun. We thank you so much for joining us. We'll see you at the next RaceRoom Ranked event, where you can jump onto RaceRoom, get yourself involved in the event. For myself, Lewis McGlade, from Cameron Roger, and Ewan O'Leary was in the booth as well, don't worry. And of course, Christo, Captain Coffee behind the scenes. We thank you very much. We'll see you at the next one. But until then, goodbye.
Do you also feel the same as this car enthusiast? He's reached his vehicle dream, but suddenly the original black wheels seem a bit boring. A colourful detail would add a lot more pep, and a little eye-catcher to match the paint would make the car perfect. Customization options don't only transform the wheel to visually match the vehicle, but also provides one-of-a-kind look on the road. The wheel color, rim protectors, center caps, valve caps, and even the wheel bolts can be configured and designed individually using style components of the new BBS Unlimited wheel system. And here's how it works. The BBS Unlimited base wheels are available in a total of 8 different colors, whether it be a glossy, satin, or polished finish, or from a deep indigo blue to racing gold to a rich bronze. Rim protectors are a colorful detail to visually enhance the wheel while preventing damage from curb contact. In addition, the rim protectors can easily and quickly be replaced and renewed at any time. In total, 6 different designs are available. The center cap completes the wheel. So how cool would it be if it could also be customized? BBS Unlimited Style makes this possible. It's available in 56mm and 70.6mm diameters and can be applied in a variety of ways with the BBS logo. The center cap is available in 2D or 3D embossing, as well as in several color variations. And with the 3D rotation cover, the BBS logo remains visible to everyone, even when the car is in high gear. The valve caps complement the wheel in 6 different colors. This gives the individual wheel an even more coherent look. You can even choose the wheel bolt in the last step to match the wheel. Available in black, silver, and even titanium. With the help of the BBS Unlimited style components, you're able to create a work of art out of a conventional wheel, according to your own wishes and ideas. Just take a look at our configurator, and after a few clicks you can already start designing the perfect wheel for your vehicle. Do you have any questions about customization? Then contact the Wheel Expert now.